and was officiating, and he was talking about turning the other cheek.
Mm-hmm.
And I mentioned, Pastor Feltman, in my experience, if you turn the other cheek, you get punched in that one too.
Yeah.
And the men there started laughing, and
Mm-hmm.
they were not joined by Pastor Feltman.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just blew his whole thing
Well,
right there.
let's think about, where this conversation started with everything going on over in Portland.
Yes.
And and I think the legacy that caused.
Certainly.
But I think the reason that he and those others who were with him had the impact they did was because of their principled stance toward nonviolence. And I think he even said that in some of his writings, as he followed basically the way of Jesus. So today, in these conversations about defending one another or defending oneself, and even about protests versus riots, I do think if we want to really see any hope for change, violence is not going to be the way to do it.
Right. Well, even Dr. Martin Luther King started to lose control of the civil rights movement that was, there were many people responsible for the civil rights movement.
Sure.
But he became the face of the civil rights movement through the early and mid-1960s, and he should have.
Well, and I'll say it was his death, tragically, that I think cemented his influence.
Dr. King was challenged starting in the late 60s by, the one man who was most prominent was Stokely Carmichael. He later became Kwame Ture, not Kwan. Anyway, he changed his name and moved to Africa. He thought that the United States was hopelessly racist and he didn't want to be here anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, he started to openly challenge Dr. King's theory of nonviolence.
Mm-hmm.
Around the very ideas that I was talking about. If you turn the other cheek, you get punched.
Yeah.
And there's a very famous clip of Stokely Carmichael speaking somewhere, and he says, he's referring to the police, and he's saying, be clear in your mind. If you put your hand on us, we're going to break your arm. And the crowd exploded into applause.
Yeah.
So it was a sharp break from Dr. King's Christian philosophy that attracted white people to the movement in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
And then came the days of Black Power, and I really don't think that the Black Power movement in the long run was beneficial to African American people. They might disagree with me strongly. There will be some who disagree with me strongly.
Well, yeah, and there have been some quotes going around, people bringing up a quote from Dr. Martin Luther King saying something to the effect of, when people are rioting, that's the voice of the oppressed or the voice of the unheard. And I think that's true, but what he goes on after that quote that we've often been seeing tossed around the internet is still, for him, he believed in nonviolence, and then he believed that should be maintained and gave his theological reasons for that. And I think there is a challenge, especially for someone like myself, to say, okay, well, people shouldn't, they shouldn't kneel for the national anthem. They shouldn't protest here. And, that whole, who am I to tell people how to protest and not? And I get that, and I hear that, but I don't think I can condone violence. But I also think, at the same time, we should be able to say things need to change. And we do need to we need to listen to people who are different from us. And
we
hear
always
their
need to
concerns.
evolve. We always need to evolve, I hated that the theory of evolution in the 21st century seems to be anti-Christian.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the way I see it. Most of the laws passed are a direct slap at Christianity. I mean, laws that have been passed by the Supreme Court, which has no real authority to pass laws. But that's really why I started talking with ministers and priests on the air.
Mm-hmm.
It was obviously our culture was changing.
Yeah.
And I understood it and was down with it 50 years ago when these hard hats were beating up hippies in the streets. But I don't get it now. I don't get what the protesting is about now.
Well, I think we can say two things at the same time. We can say there are some horrible, legitimately horrible things in our history.
Mm-hmm.
I think we can all agree on that.
Yes.
And I think we can also all agree that we need to do better in the future. And I think we can also all agree that violence toward any group is not really going to be the helpful way to get there.
No.
I think we can agree on all of those things.
I think so. Well, I don't know. You might get some pushback from the people who are doing violence now. I don't know. I'm not a young person anymore. I didn't grow up in their world. I wasn't born when Ronald Reagan was president, which is when you
Yeah.
that's when you were born,
Yep.
wasn't it? You know, Reagan was the Death Valley days guy. So way before we had a reality show host as president, we had the Death Valley guy. Anyway, Pastor Austin Hill, thank you so much.
My pleasure.
All right. It's 3 o'clock. This is KVFD Fort Dodge, Iowa.
For exciting Panther sports, keep it right here on your home for University of Northern Iowa sports in north central Iowa. The voice of Fort Dodge, KVFD, Fort Dodge.
The race for a vaccine. I'm Lisa Brady, Fox News. The biggest test yet is underway as the Phase 3 trial of Moderna's vaccine begins with some 30,000 volunteers. But it's not the only promising candidate.
President Donald Trump seeing for himself in North Carolina the production site of one of the 5 vaccines the U.S. invested in. Fujifilm Diosynth Biotechnologies contracted with Novavax to handle their Phase 3 trials starting in the fall. If everything goes well, AstraZeneca looks like it may have the first coronavirus vaccine in October. Moderna and Pfizer are on track right now for the end of this year, with Novavax in January.
Fox Business's Edward Lawrence. Meantime, Vice President Pence visiting Florida, which now has more COVID cases than New York, second only to California. But Florida's latest single-day count is the lowest in 3 weeks. An outbreak in baseball as a dozen Marlins players and 2 coaches test positive. That led to the postponement of tonight's home opener in Miami and a Phillies-Yankees game in Philadelphia, where the Marlins played over the weekend. Lawmakers paying respects to one of their own as Congressman and civil rights icon John Lewis makes history even in death.
Before the hearse carrying the body of Congressman John Lewis arrived here, it made quick stops at the Lincoln Memorial, where Lewis spoke decades ago alongside Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and the MLK Memorial in the recently named Black Lives Matter Plaza, where the congressman made his final public appearance.
Ready, stop! Ready, stop!
Here at the Capitol, Lewis is now the first African-American lawmaker to lie in state in the rotunda. Lewis's flag-draped casket will be repositioned outside to the Capitol's front steps to allow public viewings tonight and tomorrow.
Fox's Jared Halpern. The public not allowed inside because of COVID restrictions still in effect at the Capitol. America is listening to Fox News.
Hey, you should move over. Red right return.
Right, red right return.
No, just red right return because
No, I'm saying red right return, but then right to agree.
Okay, but you're on the...
I should have said correct. I know it's red right return, but...
You're on the left right return!
The tides can turn quick on the water. Progressive has you covered as a leader in boat insurance. Get a quote today at Progressive.com.
Oh, I was on the left. Right.
Please stop talking.
Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates.
Hey, if you're looking to cut costs and free up some cash on a monthly basis, start today with Pure Talk USA. Now, the average family of 4 is saving over $800 a year on cell phone service by switching to Pure Talk USA. Now, every plan includes unlimited talk and text. And by the way, it just starts at $20. So switch to Pure Talk today. Just dial pound 250 keyword Pure Radio. Pure Talk USA. Simply smarter wireless. You'll have the option to receive a one-time auto-dial text from Pure Talk USA.
Dozens of people infected with coronavirus while attending a religious event in Alabama.
It's more than 40 people testing positive for COVID-19, according to a pastor also infected after going to a multi-day revival event last week in North Alabama. Pastor Darrell Ross of Warrior Creek Missionary Baptist Church tells AL.com the services were shut down after it became known that someone who'd attended tested positive. He says some members have reported symptoms, some more serious than others, but that no one's hospitalized. Pastor Ross says there were some social distancing measures in place, but no mask requirements, and that everyone knew what they were getting into. Chris Foster, Fox News.
House Speaker Nancy Pelosi inviting Senate Republicans and White House representatives to her office as the new GOP coronavirus relief bill is unveiled today. Pelosi keeping up the pressure to negotiate. The Republican plan is about 1/3 the size of a bill passed by the House in May and has other key differences, including a reduction in extra federal unemployment benefits, which are set to expire this week. A U.S. consulate shuts down in China, retaliation for the U.S. closing of a Chinese diplomatic office.
American diplomatic staff have left their consulate in the Chinese city of Chengdu after a 72-hour deadline expired. China ordered the closure in response to the U.S. closing the Chinese consulate in Houston last week, saying it was being used as a hub for espionage. Before Monday's deadline, staff were seen leaving the building, a plaque was removed, and the US flag was lowered. China's foreign ministry said Chinese staff entered the building after the deadline and have taken over. A US State Department spokesman said, "The consulate has stood at the center of our relations with the people in Western China, including Tibet, for 35 years. We are disappointed with the Chinese Communist Party."
Fox's Benjamin Hall in London. The Dow's been higher, but still fluctuating heading into the close. The Nasdaq's been rallying up more than 1%. I'm Lisa Brady, and this is Fox News.
From the Jerry Sheeter Newsroom, I'm Rob Jones. The victim of the deadly weekend apartment fire here in Fort Dodge has been identified. 67-year-old Gene Miller was pronounced dead at the scene after being found unresponsive in the apartment. Fort Dodge Fire Rescue was dispatched to 629 Central Avenue shortly after 2 p.m. Sunday afternoon when another resident reported smoke in the building. According to fire department personnel, the smoke alarm in Miller's apartment did go off. An autopsy is planned on Miller to determine the official cause of her death. The cause of the fire still remains under investigation. A two-vehicle collision near Stanhope over the weekend resulted in a fatality. 41-year-old Danielle McFarland of Stratford passed away from the accident that occurred early Saturday morning. The accident report indicates that McFarland was driving on 330th Street and did not stop at the intersection of Highway 17. Her vehicle then collided with a transfer truck that was being driven by 46-year-old Ogden resident Scott McLeod. He was unable to get the truck stopped before the two vehicles collided. McLeod was transported to the hospital to be treated for his injuries. McFarland was pronounced dead at the scene of the accident. We here at Alpha Media Fort Dodge send our deepest condolences to the family and friends of Danielle McFarland. The Greene County Sheriff's Office had a hectic weekend as they responded to various calls stemming from a party near Jefferson. The party was a two-day event called the Iowa Chill Summer Bash. On Saturday night, as many as 8 deputies from the Greene County Sheriff's Office were on the grounds of the event. Reportedly, there were 11 people who were drugged at the event, primarily from taking a form of the drug ecstasy. There were also 3 alleged sexual assaults at the event as well. Police seized numerous drug-related items and assisted first responders with 2 individuals who were unresponsive. The event did not serve our own, and multiple people were arrested for OWI, and various others were cited for underage drinking. The gathering reportedly had about 500 people in attendance. The property owner was not cited or arrested, but the Greene County Board of Supervisors is considering passing an ordinance that would in the future make it a criminal offense for someone to host a gathering that knowingly permitted underage drinking and drug usage. In sports, the 50th anniversary of the Iowa State softball tournament in Fort Dodge got underway today. Business.
Popped up, that'll do it. Adams going to call her own number, make the catch, and that's your ball game. Dodgers win 7-0 in the quarterfinals. We'll see you on Wednesday for the semis.
A 7-0 win for the Dodgers. Jalen Adams, huge in the circle. A complete game shutout, allowing just 2 hits. Jalen would be big at the plate as well with a 2-run homer to put the Dodgers up 2-0 in the 3rd inning. Dodgers got 2 in the 3rd, 2 in the 4th, and 3 in the 5th for a total of 7. Chloe Wirtz with a 2-run single in the 4th. Haley Wills had a 2-run double in the 5th. Here's Coach Andy Adams with her post-game reaction.
The pressure of this first game is something that I don't think I could tell anybody to prepare for, because you just, you get rid of those jitters. The girls came in. Jalen was absolutely on fire. Defense was phenomenal. Our hitting was there. It's just the whole package.
Dodgers will move on to take on Ankeny Centennial in the semifinals on Wednesday. They were a winner earlier today as well over Waukee. That game on Wednesday, a 12:30 first pitch, 12:20 pregame on Sunny 99.7 and online at yourfortdodge.com. That's your Alpha Media News Update from the Jerry Sheeter Newsroom. I'm Rob Jones.
Here's the AM 1400 KVFD weatherology forecast. Ample sunshine expected this afternoon with highs around 85. Northwest winds 8 to 15 miles per hour. Lows level off around 61 tonight. Lots of sunshine outside tomorrow, high of 87. Partly cloudy Wednesday with highs around 87. 84, chance for scattered thunderstorms Thursday. From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Currently, it's 84.
Here's a look at how the markets closed today. September corn down 1 1/4 at $3.25. December down a half a penny at $3.34 1/2. March corn down a half a cent at $3.45 1/2. May down 3/4 at $3.52 1/4. August soybeans up 1 3/4 at $9.06 1/2. September unchanged at $8.98 3/4. November up a half a penny at $8.99 3/4. January up a half a cent at $9.05 1/4. September wheat closed down 11 3/4 at $5.27 3/4. Soybean meal up 170 a ton at $292.50. August live cattle down 90 cents at $100.42. October's down 127 to close at 103.82. August feeder cattle down 270 at 139.35. September down 312 at 139.62. August lean hogs up 55 cents to close at 54.55. October up 60 at 50.75. I am Dwayne Murley.
During this challenging and unprecedented time, Gunderson's is here to serve with expert guidance and understanding to each family and their unique needs. We provide options for funeral, cremation, memorial, virtual, and webcast services, either presently or at a later date. We understand that grief does not wait. We are trained to help you walk this path to bring comfort and support. Every life deserves to be recognized and celebrated, whether it be together or afar.
Michael Devine at AM 1400.
In the name of justice and the American way of life.
With 60 rounds of freedom.
All right, we got 60 rounds of freedom with us at all times. Rob Jones, I've asked our news and sports director, Rob Jones, to join us. Rob had a birthday over the weekend. I can't forget that. He's out of the room right as we speak, but he should be here in just a couple of moments. I would really like to thank Pastor Austin Hill for being in today to talk about a just war. By the way, Joe Coleman, Deacon Joe Coleman of the Catholic Church will be in here at 3:40 this afternoon, and we'll talk about the same concept as far as Christianity is concerned. Christianity, the religion of peace. Should Christians actually be engaged in war? And of course, I believe, and my early moral training was provided by the Catholic Church, that most certainly when our culture and civilization is in danger, we should fight back. Now, I was prompted to this discussion by, of course, the chaos with these brutes in Portland and the law enforcement people. There's absolutely no excuse for the mayor of Portland, Ted Wheeler, who is apparently a very small man. He's probably, 1 foot 2 inches. He simply cannot get his own city under control, and he refuses to admit it. And of course, Mayor Jenny Durkin of Seattle kind of dropped that violent protest, as a summer of love thing. She's dropped that, and she has now admitted she was wrong to ever say such a thing, and she regretted for saying such a crazy thing. Joining us now, as promised, the birthday boy himself, Rob Jones, News and Sports Director. Hi, Rob.
Hey, Mike. How's it going?
How old are you, young fella?
I am 38 as of Saturday.
Right. 38. Well, happy birthday.
Thank you.
You and Kennedy go celebrate, or what'd you do?
Yeah, we I worked.
Of course you did.
I worked part of the day on Saturday and finished up, and then we went and had a little birthday dinner and hung out with some friends of hers for a little bit afterward who were celebrating a wedding anniversary. So kind of did that, dropped by that little party, and that's pretty much it, man. I didn't really want to do too much. I mean, we still had to be cognizant of COVID-19, and so I didn't really want to go out in the public too much and be around too many people because of that. So,
well, in my earlier days, we used to shoot a hog in the head and roast the hog, and then get a keg of beer, and we'd all be asleep on the front lawn in the morning.
Well,
we haven't done that in a number of years now.
Well, I mean, a man at your age now, Mike, I'm not sure that's exactly
it's
what
not allowed in the rest home, is it?
Not exactly sure your doctor would be happy about that.
Excuse me, this is the Marion home. We don't allow butchering hogs in the lobby, so just back off.
And drunk senior citizens passed out on the lawn either.
No, there is. But the big news here, of course, is the Fort Dodge softball girls. They made us proud.
Yeah.
They have made us proud.
7-0 win today over Bettendorf, and, they'll move on Wednesday to play in the semifinals, going to take on Ankeny Centennial, but 7-0, pretty dominant today, scored 2 in the third, 2 in the fourth, 3 in the fifth, and really just kind of plugged away. Jalen Adams, she's been great all year, but today I thought was as good as I've seen her look since I've been here. She was great in the circle today. Just a Bettendorf team, Mike, that was hitting over 400 on the season coming in. Fort Dodge is number 1 in team batting average at 424, and Bettendorf was number 4 at 406, but she allowed just 2 hits to a team that's hitting over 400 on the year and had hit 35 home runs coming in. And,
I'm glad you brought that up because a lot of people, including myself, give credit for Fort Dodge softball success to their big bats, but we've had some pretty sharp pitching.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they do hit the ball, and offensively that jumps out at you. But if you look at what Jalen Adams has been able to do in the circle pitching for them, I mean, she's been among the elite in the state of Iowa, second in total wins. Now she has 19 wins, which might be good enough for first. I have to check that again tomorrow. But also she's in the top 15 in strikeouts. She got an ERA of coming into today of .57, which she didn't allow a run today. So you got to figure that's going to be even lower than it already was coming into today. She's been stellar, and hitting the ball today. They got off to a slow start. Didn't score in the first 2 innings. Kind of got off to a little bit of a slow start, but then came alive after that. And not only did Jalen Adams have a big game as far as pitching, but she also put him on the board with a 2-run homer in the third, which was her first home run of the season. What a time to do it in the state tournaments, So, the old cliche, big-time players, they make big-time plays in big-time games, and she did that today. And then once they were able to get the lead, you could just see them start to relax a little bit and play with a little more confidence, because we know that they've lost coming into today. They had lost the first game of state the last 2 years, and so I thought that maybe there was some mental block or a little nerves with that, but after they got that lead, I thought that they settled in at that point. They scored 2 again in the fourth when Chloe Wirtz would have a 2-run single, and then in the fifth they got 3, large part thanks to Haley Wills with a 2-run double there. Wills had a good game, 2 hits for her, 2 for 2 with a sacrifice bunt. It was really a team effort. I mean, one thing I like about what Fort Dodge is doing offensively is you look at today's numbers with your 2, 3, and 4 hitters who normally are very productive. Were not that productive today, but 6, 7, 8 were productive today, and even the 9 spot. So that bottom of the order keeps playing the way they have, today, and then in the regional finals last week, they're going to be really difficult to beat, and I think that's a big key to what they're going to be able to do going forward is balance in that lineup.
All right, Rob Jones is our guest. He's our news and sports director, and we're talking about our very successful Fort Dodge senior high softball team. Now the girls going to play again tomorrow, or are they here?
Wednesday. It's a 12:20 pregame and a 12:30 first pitch. I'll be out there at Harlan Rogers. Fort Dodge will take on Ankeny Centennial. Ankeny Centennial won their game. They knocked out Waukee today 5-2. That game was going on at the same time as the Fort Dodge game today. So that's who Fort Dodge will have. Will be Ankeny Centennial. I'll be out with the call of that game. Brian Peters will join me. We'll be over on Sunny 99.7, and of course our website yourfortdodge.com on Wednesday afternoon, and looking forward to it. Ankeny Centennial is a good ball club, and but I do like that matchup pretty good for Fort Dodge. I like that matchup a little bit more than I like the matchup with Waukee, so I was kind of glad that Ankeny Centennial beat Waukee, because Waukee's a team that's kind of used to being in that situation. They were the runner-up last year, and so I kind of like the fact that Ankeny Centennial maybe not as much used to the state age, and so I kind of like the experience because, the thing about state is it's a great, incredible event and spectacle, but at the same time, you can tell if you're a player out there, the lights are brighter, the stage is bigger, everybody's watching you. Every play is bigger than it was before. So with that being said, I like the teams that have been there before because they usually know a little bit more about how to handle that situation.
Yeah, that's I think the Dodger girls can learn pretty fast, though.
Well, and they've been there. A lot of this team, people talk about how young this team is, and they are young. They only have one senior that starts. But on the flip side of that, they have a bunch of sophomores and juniors who have been on this team now. This is their third year. This is their third trip to state.
Sure.
A lot of them were here as 8th graders and 9th graders, and so they've been through it before, and now they're back on that stage. So they've been through the experience before. So I feel like, they're pretty well acclimated at this point. And I feel like today really, I said this going in, I feel like today was really the key just to get that kind of proverbial gorilla off the back, to win that first game, because they had lost the first game 2 years in a row, and it starts to become kind of a mental hang-up at that point. But I thought today, after they got the lead, I think they felt much more relaxed, and I'll tell you, once they got the lead, I felt like it was over because I didn't feel like they were going to touch Jalen, and they didn't much. So, it was one of those deals where I felt like whatever you scored for her, you were going to win because she was going to shut them down, and she did primarily. So, we'll see. Just 2 more wins, and if they can get the one on Wednesday and then a one on Thursday, Mike, we'll keep the big gold trophy here in Fort Dodge.
That'd be all right.
Yeah, well, that will be the first time in school history.
Really?
Yep.
All right. Who's the biggest threat, do you think, to Fort Dodge?
I would
Ankeny
say,
Centennial, or?
Ankeny Centennial is going to be, a threat, and they're going to have to play well to beat them. But on the other side of the bracket, I think that Valley is dangerous because
Valley's always dangerous.
They're
the biggest
very
school.
good. They're so good. I mean, you look at what they've done from a perennial standpoint. They've won 6 championships. They're the defending champion from last year. They've got Alex Honnold back at shortstop, who has signed to play with Missouri next year. So, they've got a lot of talent. They've got a coach who's won it before, knows what it takes. They've got players who've won it before. So I think they're dangerous on the other side. So hopefully somebody can go ahead and knock them out on the other side. And
it'd be nice.
We'll have to see them.
We can't depend on them.
Otherwise, let's see them in the finals, and let's get a little payback on them. Let's get Fort Dodge some payback on them for beating them last year, because Valley beat them in the state quarterfinals last year.
Yeah. Who won last year?
Valley.
That's what I thought.
Valley beat Waukee.
Valley beat Waukee.
And the conspiracy theorists around the area, and there are plenty of them, I'm sure you know that. Everywhere I've ever been, I've heard people say that the state organizations like for the teams from the state capital, regardless of what state you're in, to be in the finals.
That's not a conspiracy. That's a fact.
Well, it may be a fact. I don't know. But the folks who subscribe to that say that, last year you had Fort Dodge was the 2 seed. You had the Valley as the 7. Waukee was on the opposite side of the bracket as the 1. So a lot of people felt like Valley was seated low on purpose, so they wouldn't have to see Waukee until the finals, and that's what we ended up getting was a Valley-Waukee final.
That's right.
Last year. So,
you're talking to the wrong guy about that. That's not even a theory to me. That's the absolute fact.
Well, and
our tax money goes to Des Moines, and we never see it again.
I could point out other states I've been in where I feel like maybe that happened too.
Oh yeah. Oh, I'm sure it does. And there are marketers behind these tournaments that want the maximum interest. They want the maximum attendance. They want a lot of exposure on Des Moines TV stations and in newspapers to keep it pushed forward. So if they have a Waukee Valley comedy, and by the way, Valley, boy, you're a busy man over there.
Yeah, phone's kind of going off. State week, it happens.
Yeah, but these figures are like 5 years old. The Valley had over 8,000 students just in the 4 upper grades, freshmen through senior high.
The biggest school in Iowa.
Biggest school, yeah. And they built a football stadium not too long ago. Well, it's been a few years, I guess. That's the nicest one in the state by far, maybe one of the nicer ones in the whole Midwest. Yeah, they're invested in their sports program. And you get down in Des Moines with Valley and Dowling, it's the Catholics versus the Protestants again. all over again, religious war again.
Oh, yeah.
Or what was that great ESPN special? Notre Dame and...
Catholics and convicts.
Catholics and convicts.
Notre Dame and Miami.
Oh, yeah. I used to go to wrestling tournaments in Des Moines all the time. Those Urbandale kids were just ornery. I swear. They gave the Fort Dodge wrestlers a bunch of grief. Guys in their 20s, late 20s, going up to the Fort Dodge. And I saw it, going up to Fort Dodge wrestlers and calling them punks and stuff.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Oh. It's not good.
Well, see, I'm kind of surprised by that because when I've been to Urbandale, they've been very preppy type kids. They don't seem like
I should
kind of
take
kids
that back.
Fight.
I was in Des Moines North, which is kind of a hard.
Oh, okay, that's a little different.
Yeah, but one of the guys was wearing an Urbandale cap. That's why I associate him with Urbandale. I've been down to a couple of Urbandale invitationals, wrestling invitationals. We never really had any problem there, but yeah, Des Moines North is kind of a tough side of town.
Yeah, I could see the difference a little bit when saw them during basketball this past year, and there is a difference there, and that's why it surprised me with Urbandale because when I went there for basketball, I didn't get the feeling at all that they were the kind of people or kids that wanted any sort of conflict.
Several years ago, here in Fort Dodge, Des Moines North came to play football. Sam Mosier was still the football coach, and we were just beating the hell out of them, just wailing on them. We had 40 points on them before the half, and it looked like the game was going to be called because of the 50-point rule. And the Des Moines North kids knew that and started just openly slugging the Fort Dodge kids.
Really?
And the ref would throw them out.
Huh.
Next play, another Des Moines North kid would slug another Fort Dodge kid. He was out. Pretty soon, Fort Dodge scored 50, and that was the end of the game. But the Des Moines North kids the Des Moines North coach took his kids off the field, wouldn't allow them to shake hands with the Fort Dodge kids, and the Des Moines North coach didn't come over and shake hands with Coach Mosier at the time. So they were, and then this guy, the coach, I think he went home and resigned. So he was really a spoil sport.
Yeah, that's a tough deal. And speaking of football, have you heard about the changes to the football schedule this year?
Well, with the outbreak of the Miami Marlins team with COVID, nobody knows what's going to happen with football, do they?
Well, Iowa high school football is going to change this year. They put out a statement Friday, the High School Association did, that said that they are reducing the regular season from 9 games to 7 this year, but they're going to lengthen the playoffs. So, in theory, it's going to be the same amount of games, but you're going to have less regular season games. And I think it's just because they didn't want teams to get COVID and have to forfeit during like a district game that would change the playoffs. Or the playoff picture. So this year, everybody's going to make the playoffs. They're going to lengthen the playoffs by 2 weeks and shorten the regular season by 2 weeks.
All right.
So I'm guessing that's what they want to do. So everybody's going to make the playoffs. That's a Christmas gift for the coaches right there. You can put that down on your resume. Made the playoffs.
Made the playoffs. Rob Jones is our news and sports director. Thank you, Rob. All right, this is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge.
Michael Devine, the Doctor of Truth.
Does anyone have anything they'd like to confess?
At AM 1400 KVFD.
It's 328 and 84 degrees.
Weather not doing the grain markets many favors. Hello, everyone. I'm Mark Dorenkamp with Managing for Profit on Brownfield. DTN lead analyst Todd Holtman says there are areas of haves and have-nots across the Corn Belt, but overall conditions are quite favorable for crop development. Plus, he suggests those have-nots have received beneficial moisture in the last week. And moving forward, Holtman says near and long-term forecasts are going to be a bigger price influence than the weekly condition ratings. More after this.
America, your children have an amazing superpower. They can help save lives by not having play dates. That's right. By replacing get-togethers with virtual play dates and video chats, they can help slow the evil spread of germs. And if your superheroes do go outside, make sure they continue their superhero wing by staying 6 feet away from others to protect everyone in America land. Find out more at coronavirus.gov. A message from the CDC and the Ad Council.
It's time for today's STEM tip. Okay, you know recycling is important. No one wants plastic in the ocean. Here's a cool way to repurpose a plastic bottle. Build an awesome terrarium. Cut a large plastic bottle in half and fill the base with sand, pebbles, potting soil, and your favorite plant. I chose an African violet. put the top of the bottle over your base and place it in the sun. Your plant will grow sealed in its own ecosystem. Fun, right? Learn more at She Can STEM. A message from the Ad Council.
DTN lead analyst Todd Holtman tells Brownfield weather is having a bearish impact on the corn and soybean market.
You've probably heard the description this year already of areas of haves and have-nots. I think that's probably a pretty good assessment. But overall, we have to say friendly for crops. We've had above normal temperatures, a pretty hot trend of temperatures this summer, but we've also had sporadic timely rains that have popped up when they've needed to and have offset a lot of the negative effect of the hot temperatures. And really, we are left with not too many overly dry areas across the Corn Belt. Probably west central Iowa is one of the more famous places right now that could still use more rain. And then in the far eastern Corn Belt, Indiana, Ohio, Michigan, crops have been suffering a bit, but guess what? They just had more rain move through. So overall, the crops are so far getting the moisture they need at the time they need.
He says this can be a tricky time for the market as it forms opinions on the size of the upcoming crop.
We got our planting acre estimates from USDA on June 30, and we take those and we observe the weather every day. And when I say we, I mean the market in general, including traders. Keep a close tab on the forecasts and where the rain's actually fallen and hasn't fallen. And then, as you say, we take a look at those crop ratings on Monday afternoon and kind of compare notes with what USDA officials are seeing out in the field across the country. And overall, it's really a guessing game right now. We haven't had USDA go out in a widespread area and survey the crop yet, and we haven't had field observations, which don't start until September. So it is a big guessing game, but I would say of all the inputs, it's the weather forecast and that extended forecast, which keeps seemingly changing day by day, which really seems to be influencing prices the most.
Holtman says export activity, which has included a lot of Chinese purchases of U.S. corn and soybeans lately, will also be a factor. I'm Mark Dorenkamp with Managing for Profit on Brownfield. Ag News for America.
Your news, your town, your station. KVFD News when it breaks.
In the Jerry Sheeter Newsroom, I'm Rob Jones. The victim of the deadly weekend apartment fire here in Fort Dodge has been identified. 67-year-old Gene Miller was pronounced dead at the scene after being found unresponsive in the apartment. Fort Dodge Fire Rescue was dispatched to 629 Central Avenue shortly after 2 p.m. Sunday afternoon when another resident reported smoke in the building. According to fire department personnel, the smoke alarm in Miller's apartment did go off. An autopsy is planned on Miller to determine the official cause of her death. The cause of the fire still remains under investigation. A two-vehicle collision near Stanhope over the weekend resulted in a fatality. 41-year-old Danielle McFarland of Stratford passed away from the accident that occurred early Saturday morning. The accident report indicates that McFarland was driving on 330th Street and did not stop at the intersection of Highway 17. Her vehicle then collided with a transfer truck that was being driven by 46-year-old Ogden resident Scott McLeod. He was unable to get the truck stopped before the two vehicles collided. McLeod was transported to the hospital to be treated for his injuries. McFarland was pronounced dead at the scene of the accident. We here at Alpha Media Fort Dodge send our deepest condolences to the family and friends of Danielle McFarland. The Greene County Sheriff's Office had a hectic weekend as they responded to various calls stemming from a party near Jefferson. The party was a two-day event called the Iowa Chill Summer Bash. On Saturday night, as many as 8 deputies from the Greene County Sheriff's Office were on the grounds of the event. Reportedly, there were 11 people who were drugged at the event, primarily from taking Molly, a form of the drug ecstasy. There were also 3 alleged sexual assaults at the event as well. Police seized numerous drug-related items and assisted first responders with 2 individuals who were unresponsive. The event did not serve alcohol, but did allow people to bring their own, and multiple people were arrested for OWI, and various others were cited for underage drinking. The gathering reportedly had about 500 people in attendance. The property owner was not cited or arrested, but the Greene County Board of Supervisors is considering passing an ordinance that would in the future make it a criminal offense for someone to host a gathering that knowingly permitted underage drinking and drug usage. In sports, the 50th anniversary of the Iowa State softball tournament in Fort Dodge got underway today, and the Dodgers took care of business.
Popped up, that'll do it. Adams going to call her own number, make the catch, and that's your ball game. Dodgers win 7-0 in the quarterfinals. We'll see you on Wednesday for the semis.
A 7-0 win for the Dodgers. Jalen Adams, huge in the circle. A complete game shutout, allowing just 2 hits. Jalen would be big at the plate as well with a 2-run homer to put the Dodgers up 2-0 in the 3rd inning. Dodgers got 2 in the 3rd, 2 in the 4th, and 3 in the 5th for a total of 7. Chloe Wirtz with a 2-run single in the 4th. Haley Wills had a 2-run double in the 5th. Here's Coach Andy Adams with her post-game reaction.
The pressure of this first game is something that I don't think I could tell anybody to prepare for, because you just, you get rid of those jitters. The girls came in. Jalen was absolutely on fire. Defense was phenomenal. Our hitting was there. It's just a whole package.
Dodgers will move on to take on Ankeny Centennial in the semifinals on Wednesday. They were a winner earlier today as well over Waukee. That game on Wednesday, a 12:30 first pitch, 12:20 pregame on Sunny 99.7 and online at yourfortdodge.com. That's your Alpha Media News Update from the Jerry Sheeter Newsroom. I'm Rob Jones.
Here's a look at how the markets closed today. September corn down 1 1/4 at $3.25. December down a half a penny at $3.34 1/2. March corn down a half a cent at $3.45 1/2. May down 3/4 at $3.52 1/4. August soybeans up 1 3/4 at $9.06 1/2. September unchanged at $8.98 3/4. November up a half a penny at $8.99 3/4. January up a half a cent at $9.05 1/4. September wheat closed down 11 3/4 at $5.27 3/4. Soybean meal up 1.70 a ton at $2.92.50. August live cattle down 90 cents at $100.42. October's down 1.27 to close at 103.82. August feeder cattle down 2.70 at 139.35. September down 3.12 at 139.62. August lean hogs up 55 cents to close at 54.55. October up 60 at 50.75. I am Dwayne Murley.
Here's the AM 1400 KVFD weatherology forecast. Ample sunshine expected this afternoon with highs around 85. Northwest winds 8 to 15 miles per hour. Lows level off around 61 tonight. Lots of sunshine outside tomorrow, high of 87. Partly cloudy Wednesday with highs around 87. 84, chance for scattered thunderstorms Thursday. From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Currently, it's 84.
Questions about the safety of fresh fruits and vegetables have risen in light of the coronavirus pandemic, but a clinical assistant professor at Purdue University says there is no reason to be alarmed because the virus is not foodborne or food transmitted. I'm Amy Simpson with Healthy Living on Brownfield. Amanda Deering says some people have expressed concern because the virus can be transmitted from surfaces, and feeling and touching fresh produce is part of the buying experience.
The issue is that these are still areas that people could touch. So if they were infected, if they do touch a surface that has that and then they don't wash their hands and then touch their nose, eyes, mouth, whatever, touch their face, there could be that potential for transmission.
She says it's unclear how long the virus stays on surfaces, but there are steps to take to stay safe and still enjoy fresh produce.
Typically, we advise don't wash it until you're going to consume it to help protect the shelf life or improve the shelf life of the product. But in this case, probably the best thing is as soon as you bring it home, wash it and then get it into the refrigerator for storage.
She reiterates that fresh produce is safe, but if people are looking for alternatives, canned, frozen, or prepackaged fruits and vegetables are good options.
That's going to be better than eliminating them altogether.
I'm Amy Simpson with Healthy Living on Brownfield.
This is Brad Keselowski, driver number 2, Discount Tire Ford Mustang. Racing fans know that a quick pit stop to check the tires can give me the winning edge. The same is true for your car. Proper tire tread helps keep traction on the road in everyday driving. To check your tread, simply insert a penny, Lincoln's head first, into your tire grooves. If you can see all of Honest Abe's head, it's time to get your tires checked by a professional.
A message from the U.S. Tire Manufacturers Association.
Watch out! You got me!
The galaxy is safe once again.
In the pretend universe, kids play with pretend guns. In the real world, it's up to us to make sure they don't get their hands on a real gun. If you have a gun in the house, keep it locked, unloaded, and stored separately from ammunition. Safe gun storage saves lives. Learn how to make your home safer at endfamilyfire.org. That's endfamilyfire.org. Brought to you by End Family Fire, Brady, and the Ad Council.
Michael Devine, the Doctor of Truth.
Does anyone have anything they'd like to confess?
At AM 1400 KVFD.
That's right. I am the Doctor of Truth. It's exactly 3:40. We welcome to the program once again Deacon Joe Coleman. How are you, Joe?
I'm very well, Michael. How are you?
Well, I'm fantastic. Joe Coleman, of course, has one of the more recognizable names in our area. He's an attorney, a Creighton graduate, and a deacon in the Catholic Church. And I'm delighted to be talking with Joe today. We tried something different, Mr. Coleman and myself. We actually thought we'd prepare for our time together this afternoon, and I think it'll go pretty well. The topic, and you probably, if you were listening earlier, I touched on it with Pastor Austin Hill of the First Presbyterian Church, and frankly, and I don't know why it influenced me that way, but some of the pictures I've been seeing from Portland, Oregon, made me think that this is a civil war. So I thought talking to you today, we could talk about the just war concept. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not suggesting we send in the military to crush the protesters or anything like that. But down through the ages, there has been a discussion within Christianity and within the Catholic Church about what a just war, if there's such a thing as a just war. After all, we're the religion of peace, and we hail our Savior as the Prince of Peace. And now we're going to talk about killing people, which is one of the commandments. We're told not to do that. I think it's the fifth one, isn't it, Joe, that we're not supposed to do that?
Yes, you're exactly right, Mike. It is the fifth.
So most of the material, and I've done a little research as Joe has, most of our material on a just war comes from St. Augustine. At least that's what I found, Joe. And
it does, Mike. It comes from Augustine early, and then it delves to Aquinas in Summa Theologica. And for my money, I think Aquinas had a better logical approach to life and what goes on. Augustine could be a little bit dogmatic about certain things. Aquinas was much more, let's look at this logically. If your logic is better than my logic, I'll adopt yours. But there were very few people, if any, who had better logic than Thomas Aquinas.
Oh, I'm so impressed by Aquinas and most of the early philosophers in the Catholic Church. I will say that Aristotle, no less a person than Aristotle, found a favorable opinion of war to avoid being enslaved to others. That's a key phrase, to avoid being enslaved to others. If you have a choice between slavery and war, it is moral and right in the Aristotelian view to go to war. And I couldn't help but agree.
And it probably is in the modern day concept. I mean, we moved forward from Aquinas. We touched a little bit earlier on Vatican II,
And there's been a evolution of the thinking of what constitutes a just war, especially in light of the catastrophic armaments and weapons of war that exist now. You know, the probably the most thought about example is the Nagasaki and Hiroshima.
Of course.
And because of the devastating, deleterious effects that it had not only on the generation that suffered it, but the succeeding generations, still even today in the Japanese psyche.
Oh, it certainly is in the Japanese psyche. I mean, they have a city block in Hiroshima, I believe, that's been left as it was after the bomb. And,
you are exactly right.
And it scared a lot of people, the power that had been unleashed. Of course, Harry Truman never had a doubt. He said, "I saved American lives, and that's it." You know, and
that's there you go. The best evidence, you know, at the time was based upon what we saw in Okinawa and Iwo Jima, is that we were probably lose 1 million American lives.
Yeah.
I think the death toll at Hiroshima was short of 100,000. And, you know, just an interesting sidelight, neither Hiroshima nor Nagasaki were bombed during the Second World War, except for the atom bomb, because when they were trying to figure out what kind of a weapon this is and what it is, they wanted to have a pristine area where they would be able to determine the results of the bomb. Isn't that ironic?
That is ironic. I'll tell you, I'll make it personal, though. My father was a 22-year-old Marine who had been on the Battle of Guadalcanal as a rear echelon person at first, but he got into the real nonsense, or I shouldn't say nonsense, the real horror of war on the Peleliu Islands. And the Peleliu Islands, for some reason, have never really been reported much in history books. It was a savage struggle. Some Marine Corps units lost 75% of their manpower. 75%, 3 out of 4. If 4 men went to combat,
1 came home.
1 came home. That's right.
Yeah.
And he was one of those guys. And then he was involved with the battle in Okinawa on Sugarloaf Hill. Dad had PTSD, what we now call PTSD, I'm fairly certain. But he never forgot those things. And he was absolutely at peace with President Truman's decision. As a matter of fact, he cheered it. And he cheered it, of course, because it had been a terrible, terrible struggle. The island hopping campaigns in the South Pacific didn't get as much press as the European War, because that was the war that President Roosevelt thought had to be won. So we wanted
absolutely. If you're ever interested in getting a really good look at that, read William Manchester's book on MacArthur and the way that we lost fewer people in that war in terms of the combat, although the combat was savage, because of the island hopping and the starving off of the island.
Yes.
It is remarkable. I got a question I'd like to ask you as long as we're on this subject, Mike. I'd love to get your input. Do you think we would have made the same decision with the bomb in Europe?
You know, that's a very good question. There would have been a lot of discussion. I mean, Adolf Hitler famously asked, "Is Paris burning?" When he had to withdraw from Paris, and he was bitter, of course, that he was losing the war. And when one of his generals came around that was supposed to be in charge of burning Paris to the ground, think of that. They were going to burn Paris to the ground. Hitler asked him, "Is Paris burning?" And while parts of it did burn, it did not. They did not do as Hitler was instructed. And some of the German generals couldn't do it because of the beautiful cathedrals there, because of the great works of art that were there. They just couldn't bring themselves to do it. Which, I mean, we're talking about Nazi generals here.
Yeah, you and I are of the age vintage that we remember when that book came out, Is Paris Burning? And it was a bestseller in the 60s, I believe, if my memory serves me correct. And you're exactly right. The commandant in Paris ignored the order. He would not do it.
No, there was some discussion. I'm not taking orders from an Austrian corporal or something. I don't know.
Exactly.
Would that they had done that a little earlier, but that's all ancient history now. But
you and I both know that there's a whole line of thought that the bomb would not have been triggered in Europe as it was in Asia.
Well, I'm talking about you, or with this about you, in part because some of the protesters in Portland around the country are demonstrating because they believe they're involved in a just war. And I think to myself, I've seen war. You have no idea what you're talking about. My God.
Yeah.
You just don't know what you're talking about.
I couldn't agree with you more. As you and I often reminisce while we're on the air, we're of the Vietnam era.
Certainly.
And we had to go through the draft and the lottery, and as I told you before, I wound up being in the Army, an officer in the Army, and it's a whole lot different when you're called upon to put your life on the line. Thank God I never was, but at least I was in line.
Yes. This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. We're talking with Deacon Joe Coleman of the Catholic Church. So I don't think there's any real comparison between actual war and whatever these people think they're doing out in the streets, throwing rocks at police officers. That's that's embarrassing conduct.
I haven't really formed my conscience on Portland yet because I'm trying to get an accurate read from the media. And we are getting such dichotomous stories, depending on which network you're listening to, as to what's really happening there. And we repeatedly, I have no doubt that there are people in the crowds who are, have a political motive in mind, which is nothing other than chaos.
Yes, that's it. And that's strange. They claim to hate Donald Trump, but they're playing right into Trump's hands. But anyway, to say they don't know what they're talking about is a gross understatement. This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. We're talking with Deacon Joe Coleman. Joe, I've just been handed an announcement. I have to report it. A large fire was reported today at the Humboldt Yacht Club. The fire was reported around noon today, and according to reports, smoke from the fire could be seen on Highway 169. As of the time of this report, fire crews from both Webster and Humboldt counties were on the scene. No further information was available as of the time of this report. We plan to have more on this story as new details emerge. So, big fire up at the Humboldt Yacht Club. That's all we know right now. Yes, sir?
I'm sorry to hear that. The Humboldt Yacht Club and what was done, I think also they moved into Born Free, the Born Free facility there as well.
Oh, they did?
I could be wrong about that. Yeah, and they were really trying to get things going. So I hope everybody up there is safe and well and nobody got hurt.
I didn't know Born Free was no longer there making motor coaches. Shows you how far I'm out of touch.
Yeah, Born Free was John Dodge's baby, and when John left the scene, it kind of, it was John's baby, let me put it that way.
Is Mr. Dodge still living? I had him on the air with me a couple of times years ago, but I haven't heard or seen much of him since. Is he still with us?
I do not believe that he is.
I don't believe that he is either, which is a kind of a tragedy because he was just a joy to talk to. I didn't agree with everything he had to say. He was a very opinionated man, but I don't mind opinionated people. They have I don't if they have something to back it up. And John was a Christian man, and he often spoke of his faith, and it guided him in certain ways. And my faith seemed to steer me in other ways, but that was okay with me.
Yeah, John was of the age of my father, and I knew John well and met with him many, many times. I would say he and I were on different political poles, but we were good friends. That was a time when you could have completely divergent opinions and still be friends.
Yeah, that's right. That's a good point. As far as I was concerned, Mr. Dodge and whoever could think exactly as they wish, because this is the United States of America. And what a great country. Now there's nobody saying that. Nobody seems to be saying that. By the way, you mentioned William Manchester. I'm so glad to bump into another fan of Mr. Manchester's. He was a Kennedy man and a veteran of the Marine Corps island hopping campaign. He could have met my dad at one time, but he wrote one of the books later in life. He was 55 years old, and he wrote a book called Goodbye Darkness. Goodbye Darkness, and I would recommend it to anyone. Mr. Manchester also suffered from PTSD, and that's what he's. And again, we didn't call it PTSD. We had no idea what it was. But Mr. Manchester, as many other young American men, had terrible memories of combat and the things that they had seen. He describes some in the book. It's a graphic book. But
yeah, he's a great writer. He's very readable. He's kind of what we would call a page turner author. You know, you can turn the pages because they're so good. But you're right, Mike. All those guys that came back from the European theater and the South Pacific, they dealt with their PTSD by becoming silent.
Yes, they did that, and that was expected of them. To even talk about it was weakness. Oh, I just did my part. I remember some really sweet men in my life who were friends of my dad's, and if I remember one in particular, he endured a terrible situation with some Nazi soldiers, and he would never say anything, but he had the dark brown eyes, and those eyes of his would turn into black marbles every time he talked about it much. So he would he would smile. He would smile and just say, "Well, that happened a long time ago," or whatever. You know.
You're exactly right. I think Stephen Ambrose, that American historian that wrote, extensively about World War II, he summed it up when he has the vignette where a little grandson climbs up on his grandpa's knee, and he said, "Grandpa, were you a hero in the war?" And Grandpa responds to him, "No, Sonny, I wasn't a hero, but I knew a lot of them."
Knew a lot of heroes, It really irritates me when I hear those men now referred to as privileged or oppressive in their life. They came back from the war knowing that they never wanted to see in Europe what they, or never wanted to see in the United States what they'd seen in Europe. And
absolutely.
Terrible ethnic divisions. I mean, Hitler and his lunacy, murderous lunacy, is just terrible even to contemplate. But that's what they were fighting against.
Exactly. So I know you have to take a break here in a little bit for the news, but we can get back talking about a just war. The first principle of a just war, as you well know, Michael, is you have to do everything you can to avoid it.
Yes.
Just to give you something that is we see in today's society, we have the stand your ground law now, where you're seeing every night on the news where somebody has stood their ground, quote unquote, because they were in fear of their death.
Right.
Iowa used to have the best approach in the country to that. That the very first thing you had to do if you were confronted with physical violence to yourself, before you could engage in lethal force, you had a duty to try to retreat.
Yes.
And of course, and that's not a sissy thing. It's a civilized thing that you disengage from the confrontation.
I guess I disagree with you, Joe. And we're civilized men in a free country, so we can do this. It's been my experience, if you retreat and the attacker is serious, he will take advantage of your retreat. And that is one of the reasons I think that we have stand your ground as it is. And besides, it goes against the grain of a lot of people, of free people, to be forced to retreat. I know your perspective is influenced by Christianity. And I can't argue with that. I can't offer a real argument to that, but I can say is that something in us, and God must have put it there, that retreat in the face of an aggressive bully is not something we do. Not something we do easily.
And so that you know, retreat as used in the law was a word of art that translated to disengage from the hostility. You know, it wasn't one of these deals where you had to cower and turn your back and run. It's that you had to try to slow the situation down. And the word they used was retreat.
Okay. Joe Coleman is our guest, Deacon Joe Coleman, and we'll be back right at 4:10, and we'll discuss, a just war with Joe Coleman. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you, Michael.
We'll talk to you on the other side of the news here. Boy, that's such a radio announcer thing to say. The other side of the news. All right, we'll talk to you, Joe. Thank you very much. It's 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and it's 84 degrees. This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge.
If you're a gearhead or not, you'll enjoy the Under the Hood Car Show every Saturday afternoon from 2 till 4 on the voice of Fort Dodge, AM 1400 KVFD.
Rolling up their sleeves. I'm Lisa Brady, Fox News. Some 30,000 volunteers beginning the largest test yet for one of several coronavirus vaccines in development.
Moderna is starting to test its trial vaccine for coronavirus today with help from researchers at the University of Miami. The company made record progress under the Trump administration's Operation Warp Speed, says Vice President Mike Pence.
And in 62 days, a period of time never heard of in vaccine development, we were able to go to phase 1 trial. But today, here in Florida, we begin the first phase 3 clinical trial for a coronavirus vaccine.
Moderna is hoping to present the vaccine for FDA approval and by the end of the year or early next manufacture and distribute it.
Fox's Eben Brown. While the vice president was visiting, Florida offering some good news on its recent virus surge, the lowest single-day number of new cases in 3 weeks, but still nearly 9,000. Florida now has the second highest total behind California. President Trump visiting a pharmaceutical plant in North Carolina and also touting the fast-track vaccine work.
There's never been anything like this in terms of speed, nothing even close. A second vaccine is likely to enter phase 3 in a matter of days.
Meantime, Senate Republicans pitching a new coronavirus relief package that Democrats have already criticized is not enough. One of the key differences, the amount of extra federal unemployment benefits, which expire this week. Congressman John Lewis lies in state in the Capitol Rotunda, the first black lawmaker to have that honor.
Here in Congress, John was revered and beloved on both sides of the aisle, on both sides of the Capitol.
House Speaker Nancy Pelosi among the lawmakers paying tribute in a ceremony carefully staged to remember the civil rights icon while still following safety protocols. America is listening to Fox News.
Land ho! hey, seriously, land ho, guys. Guys, land ho! Land ho! Right there!
The tides can turn quick on the water. Progressive's boat insurance has you covered with Sign and Glide on-water towing. Get a quote today in as little as 3 minutes at Progressive.com.
I gotta say, this land ho thing, not very effective.
Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Sign and Glide coverage is subject to policy terms.
Hey, if you're looking to cut costs and free up some cash on a monthly basis, start today with Pure Talk USA. Now, the average family of 4 is saving over $800 a year on cell phone service by switching to Pure Talk USA. Now, every plan includes unlimited talk and text. And by the way, just starts at $20, so switch to Pure Talk today. Just dial pound 250 keyword Pure Radio. Pure Talk USA, simply smarter wireless. You'll have the option to receive a one-time auto-dial text from Pure Talk USA.
The mayors of 6 U.S. cities are urging Congress to make it illegal for the federal government to deploy militarized federal agents to cities that don't want them, including the mayor of Portland, Oregon, where a 60th night of violence erupted as federal officers insist they're trying to protect a federal courthouse. Trump campaign press secretary Hogan Gidley on the Brian Kilmeade show defending the president's efforts to bring violence under control, arguing the alternative is to allow leaders in some cities to let it get worse.
even though the mayors support everything these people are doing and come out and give lip service and paint murals and do all the things that they feel, put them in good graces with the woke, it never is enough.
Democrats accuse the president of playing politics with the issue to try to scare voters. Kanye West makes a public apology and visits a hospital.
Kanye West apologized to his wife on Twitter and reportedly visited a hospital in Wyoming shortly after the statement. West wrote, "I would like to apologize to my wife, Kim, for going public with something that was a private matter. I did not cover her like she has covered me." He went on to say, "Kim, I want to say I know I hurt you. Please forgive me. Thank you for always being there for me." According to TMZ, the rapper said he then checked himself into a hospital for anxiety, but decided against staying when he noticed how many people were there. He then arranged for an ambulance visit to his ranch where EMTs reportedly checked his vitals before determining he was not in any danger. Michelle Polino, Fox News.
Over the weekend, West posting about his presidential run, tweeting that he could beat Joe Biden off write-in votes. Coronavirus strikes again in baseball. Tonight's home opener for the Miami Marlins postponed after a dozen players and 2 coaches tested positive, also leading to the postponement of tonight's Yankees-Phillies game in Philadelphia, where the Marlins played over the weekend. I'm Lisa Brady, Fox News.
From the Jerry Sheeter Newsroom, I'm Rob Jones. The victim of the deadly weekend apartment fire here in Fort Dodge has been identified. 67-year-old Gene Miller was pronounced dead at the scene after being found unresponsive in the apartment. Fort Dodge Fire Rescue was dispatched to 629 Central Avenue shortly after 2 p.m. Sunday afternoon when another resident reported smoke in the building. According to fire department personnel, the smoke alarm in Miller's apartment did go off. An autopsy is planned on Miller to determine the official cause of her death. The cause of the fire still remains under investigation. A 2-vehicle collision near Stanhope over the weekend resulted in a fatality. 41-year-old Danielle McFarland of Stratford passed away from the accident that occurred early Saturday morning. The accident report indicates that McFarland was driving on 330th Street and did not stop at the intersection of Highway 17. Her vehicle then collided with a transfer truck that was being driven by 46-year-old Ogden resident Scott McLeod. He was unable to get the truck stopped before the 2 vehicles collided. McLeod was transported to the hospital to be treated for his injuries. McFarland was pronounced dead at the scene of the accident. We here at Alpha Media Fort Dodge send our deepest condolences to the family and friends of Danielle McFarland. The Greene County Sheriff's Office had a hectic weekend as they responded to various calls stemming from a party near Jefferson. The party was a 2-day event called the Iowa Chill Summer Bash. On Saturday night, as many as 8 deputies from the Greene County Sheriff's Office were on the grounds of the event. Reportedly, there were 11 people who were drugged at the event, primarily from taking Molly, a form of the drug ecstasy. There were also 3 alleged sexual assaults at the event as well. Police seized numerous drug-related items and assisted first responders with 2 individuals who were unresponsive. The event did not serve alcohol, but did allow people to bring their own, and multiple people were arrested for OWI, and various others were cited for underage drinking. The gathering reportedly had about 500 people in attendance. The property owner was not cited or arrested, but the Greene County Board of Supervisors is considering passing an ordinance that would in the future make it a criminal offense for someone to host a gathering that knowingly permitted underage drinking and drug usage. In sports, the 50th anniversary of the Iowa State softball tournament in Fort Dodge got underway today, and the Dodgers took care of business.
Popped up, that'll do it. Adams going to call her own number, make the catch, and that's your ball game. Dodgers win 7-0 in the quarterfinals. We'll see you on Wednesday for the semis.
A 7-0 win for the Dodgers. Jalen Adams, huge in the circle. A complete game shutout, allowing just 2 hits. Jalen would be big at the plate as well with a 2-run homer to put the Dodgers up 2-0 in the third inning. Dodgers got 2 in the third, 2 in the fourth, and 3 in the fifth for a total of 7. Chloe Wirtz with a 2-run single in the fourth. Haley Wills had a 2-run double in the fifth. Here's Coach Andy Adams with her post-game reaction.
The pressure of this first game is something that I don't think I could tell anybody to prepare for, because you just, you get rid of those jitters. The girls came in. Jalen was absolutely on fire. Defense was phenomenal. Our hitting was there. Just the whole package.
Dodgers will move on to take on Ankeny Centennial in the semifinals on Wednesday. They were a winner earlier today as well over Waukee. That game on Wednesday, a 12:30 first pitch, 12:20 pregame on Sunny 99.7 and online at yourfortdodge.com. That's your Alpha Media News Update from the Jerry Sheeter Newsroom. I'm Rob Jones.
Here's the AM 1400 KVFD weatherology forecast. Ample sunshine expected this afternoon with highs around 85. Northwest winds 8 to 15 miles per hour. Lows level off around 61 tonight. Lots of sunshine outside tomorrow, high of 87. Partly cloudy Wednesday with highs around 87. 84, chance for scattered thunderstorms Thursday. From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Currently, it's 84.
Michael Devine at AM 1400 KVFD.
Listen to this.
Making radio great again.
Well, we're trying to make radio great again, and to guarantee making radio great again, I've enjoined Deacon Joe Coleman to join us again today, and it's my great pleasure to welcome him back to the show. I hear you down there getting into an ice bucket of some kind, Joe. Is it the cocktail hour or what?
Can you hear ice rattling?
I can hear ice rattling. Yes, I can. What, are you overlooking the golf course, thinking you feel a golf game coming on? You have to have a little whiskey to go out there, or what?
No, I was just sitting here with some ginger ale.
Ginger ale.
Yep.
How unusual for an Irish Catholic. We have reputation to uphold, you know. We're talking with Joe Coleman about the just war theory, particularly the Catholic definition of a just war. And I think it should be noted that other denominations of Christianity do not believe as the Catholic Church does. That's because they're other denominations. They're not Catholics. They think differently. That's why they formed their own churches, which was their right. I would particularly point to my good friend and a fine Christian man, David Grinberg of St. Olaf Lutheran Church, who's now up in Algona. I just really enjoyed my conversations with Pastor Grinberg, and a very bright, very learned man. And he did not believe that there was justification for war. He believed, and I'm going to throw this question to you, he did not believe that in war, because he believed the first and only real, and I hope I'm paraphrasing his thoughts correctly, he didn't believe there was justification for war because he believed God commanded us to love. And that was our first obligation, and you cannot make war and love at the same time. I had to admit he had a point. You can't be a religion of peace and make war, or make, in his mind, excuses for war. So, if we're a loving faith, why do we go to war? In your mind.
Ideally, the reason that we go to war is out of love, if you will, for our fellow man, to protect our fellow man, to protect our families, to avoid slavery, as you pointed out early with Aristotle, to help our neighbors. The whole concept of war, that's why the first rule of the church is that you must do everything that you can possibly do to avoid it before you may engage in it. That's the first rule. But assuming you get to a point where you cannot avoid it, the person who is on the other side, or the country that's on the other side, they uncompromising. There is not, they won't take yes for an answer, if you will, no matter no matter what goes on. So at that point, I think the church looks at it from the point of view that we are acting out of a very, very good motive to try and preserve civilization,
yes,
preserve everything that we hold dear. So, I understand his point of view. If you were to roll that back to a child, when you and I discipline children, that's always very, very difficult for the child. But in my personal life, I believe that children thrive on discipline because they want boundaries and they want to know how they're going to be treated and what's permissible and what isn't. Now you pump that up and you move that up to the international scene where you have activity which is going on which is abhorrent to the order. Just as a child's activity can be abhorrent to the order of a family, a country's activity can be abhorrent to the entire international scheme. And in my judgment, discipline then steps in, especially when that activity either to you or yours or to your allies. And I think that's consistent, and I know it's consistent with the point of view that the Catholic Church has taken over the last 200 years.
I'm sure you're right, and I'm glad that you fleshed that out for us a little bit. We've been kind of talking around that, but that's what we needed to hear on this issue as far as I'm concerned. War is ugly, but it has, I don't know, not an allure, but if we're defending ourselves as we obviously were during the Second World War, and in subsequent skirmishes, by the way, the Chinese communists in the Korean War slaughtered thousands of people for no other reason than they thought they couldn't educate them fast enough, that they were peasants holding on to their land, and they believed too much in private property, so they just shot them. That's all the hand-wringing about war that my generation brought to the scene neglects to mention some real historical facts like that. Believe me, the North Vietnamese were ruthless and would kill you for anything. Their goal wasn't necessarily nationalism; it was to get the Americans out of Vietnam, and they got it done too. And
interestingly enough, Mike, every one of my children have been to Vietnam.
Really?
They've all studied. Yeah, they've all gone on what's called semester at sea. It's a course of a semester. It's run out of the University of Virginia, professors from the Ivy League school, and they take a boat on. They're on a ship, and they circumnavigate the globe, and they have numerous stops along the way. And they've all been to Vietnam, and they all report back to mom and dad. Americans are loved in Vietnam.
Really? Why?
Because there has been such a rapprochement, if you will, between the United States and Vietnam that the kids said they were treated like princes and princesses while they were there.
And the reapproachment is just because they want to put the past behind them, or they want to do business with us, or it's kind of odd in one generation, that sort of.
I am just baffled, but when John McCain went back and he met his captor and his primary torturer, and they embraced and they, I read a thing the other day that when they did the human genome, the 0.02%, 0.02% of the entire genome gives us our physical pigmentation on our skin.
Right.
So what does that tell us? That tells us 99.98% of us are identical.
But there are tremendous differences in the world outlook. I'm reminded of going into Laos years ago, and one of our guides mentioned that we were entering a village where the people believed they were living on the back of a dragon. And when they saw us, many of the children ran into the forest because they thought we were ghosts because of our pale skin. And we had a black soldier with us, and they didn't know what the hell to make of him. But there are so many, and certainly the war that we are still having with Islam isn't really based on the murderous belief of a few Islamists. Islamists truly believe that we're crusaders, and they're going to fight us, and they will continue to fight us. I don't really see it that way, but they do.
Yeah, and what you're saying is what I'm saying is the physiology of it is we are so much alike that we can't even hardly see our differences.
Certainly,
except for the color of our skin. But what you're saying is also 100% accurate. Our social mores and social customs and our methodology and mythology that we've grown up with makes us a sea apart.
I mean, I don't recall anything in Catholicism that would reward me with 72 virgins for killing somebody else. I don't get that at all. You know what I mean, Joe?
Well, you know, it's interesting that you would mention that because one of the things that I understand from visiting with professors of Islam and studying it is that the analysis of the Bible. Think of all the annotations of the Bible and all of the research that's gone on with regard to the Bible. That's not permitted in Islam on the Quran. I don't know if you knew that or not.
I did not know that.
And they don't want to go into that because there are so many, well, they just have a tough time with the nuances, and they have a tough time with the various passages that are diametrically opposed to each other.
Bill Maher, the notoriously left-wing comedian, is capable of independent thought. Now, a couple of years ago, he started talking about the differences in Western civilization and Islamic civilization. And he came down very hard on Islamic culture and how repressive it was, especially to women. You know, the Hollywood community rose up as one and condemned him. And liberals in general pounced on him so hard for not accepting multiculturalism and diversity that he eventually dropped it. He still mentions it every now and then, but every time he does, he's accused of being a hater, a white supremacist, oh God, and on and on and on. I mean, there's literally no foundation for the accusations at all, but that doesn't seem to bother anybody. So are we actually...
There's a double problem there. Bill Maher's reputation precedes him, and you know as well as I do that Bill's motto is, "I'll burn every bridge that I come to."
Yeah, that says it all for Bill right there. Yeah. I understand the chief of police in Seattle, Washington. Of course, I'm leading to a question for you here. The chief of police in Seattle, Washington, is a black woman, and she has announced just in the last few days, and she has been at odds with her mayor, a nice young white lady by the name of Jenny Durkin. She has clashed with the mayor several times for not allowing the Seattle police to do their jobs. Anyway, the Seattle police chief has announced now that the police can't protect the citizens of Seattle. They can't. You're on your own, she says. That's fun. I never thought I'd hear that, ever, from an official in a major city in the United States. What can... Are we at war?
You want me to respond to that?
No, here's my question. Are we at war right now? Should this challenge to our civilization be overlooked, as it apparently has been by the mayor of Seattle? Remember, she referred to her riots as a summer of love. Oh, God.
Well, we got a couple of things going on. First of all, these questions are never easy. They're never susceptible to the. John Kennedy used to say, anybody can tell me what the problems are. I want to surround me with people who have the answers.
And Joe, frankly, some of these questions that I asked, there is no answer to. Some things are really known only in the mind of God. But you got to bring them out and look at them every now and then, and maybe.
Absolutely, you're absolutely right. But it was like. When we were back on Pastor Greenberg, and we were talking about, love conquers all.
Yes.
Which one hemisphere of my brain agrees with absolutely. At some point, you and I talked about this earlier today, Mike. At some point, we are confronted only with evil choices, and people need to stop to realize that sometimes that's all they have. And so moralists, moral theologians, moral philosophers have always dealt with the problem of evil. And when confronted with evil, you must always choose the lesser of two. And it's hard to wrap your head around choosing evil.
Joe, you said that love will always triumph. I don't think so. I think there's a real struggle between good and evil. That's what the Bible is about, for God's sake. I think there's a struggle for good and evil, and it doesn't say we win necessarily. It kind of indicates in the book of Revelations that maybe we will, but not necessarily.
But Mike, as much as I love visiting with you, that's where you and I part company.
That's all right.
I have no doubt that love will overcome all, because the very personification of love is Jesus Christ the Lord. And that's the name of that tune, my friend.
Oh, I agree with you. But Jesus Christ the Lord occasionally allows evil to triumph. If you look at the book of Revelations, it seems to me that there is going to be a gigantic conflagration of some sort that will result in the return of the Savior. Is that the way you read it?
I do.
Mm-hmm.
I do. The same with you, Armageddon, if you will.
Mm-hmm. I can't. Go right ahead.
Stop and think about Jesus just for a second. Never, the only time the Bible records him really becoming angry, it's a righteous anger with the money changers in his father's temple.
Right.
But the Bible doesn't record him being angry with those who scourged him at the pillar, who crowned him with thorns, who crucified him on Calvary. His response was, forgive them. Forgive them. I'm telling you, I'm buying into the love aspect. And I'm buying into that love will conquer all in the end, because love is the Lord.
Well, I'm going to have to.
That's where we're at.
That's a strong Christian perspective, of course. And to be honest with you, I'm going to have to run that around in my head a few times. I don't have a snappy comeback for that, I'll tell you, Joe, because that's pretty definitive.
Well, there's no. The problem with our culture is that you and I both look for snappy retorts. We do. We do in our daily life, and I do in my home life and everything. And, there was a guy by the name of George Orwell that told us our language was going to change when the ship hits the sand, as we have done. He told us this was going to happen, and I think of how clairvoyant he must have been, Mike.
Well, he saw what happened in Russia, and what happened in Russia is Stalin bulldozed the Russian Orthodox churches, which were some of the most beautiful churches on earth. And what did he replace those churches with? Giant statues of himself. That's absolutely correct. I mean, he bulldozed those churches and murdered anybody who didn't agree with him. What do you call that?
you are so right. One of the most beautiful cathedrals in the world is in St. Petersburg, formerly Leningrad, St. Isaac's. The largest granite pillars ever made hold the dome up. It is the cat's pajamas, and you're right. And fortunately, because Leningrad or St. Petersburg was the Paris of the North, it was spared all of those indignities that happened with other cathedrals.
Yeah. I think there was a stronger Christian presence there in St. Petersburg as well that Stalin, for whatever reason, didn't want to alienate at the time. But, Joe, I haven't heard anybody say cat's pajamas in 50 years, so thank you for reminding me of that. My dad, who's been gone for a long, long time, always used to say that. Boy, that's the cat's pajamas, he would say. All right.
Well, I'm glad I reminded you of it.
Yes, I appreciate it very much. Deacon Joe Coleman has been our guest, and we're going to have to, I need to do more thinking, but we'll be back next week with another topic totally unrelated to a just war. And I look forward to that day. Thank you very much, Joe.
You're very welcome, and peace to all your listeners, Michael.
Thank you, sir. This is AM 1400.
Michael Devine at AM 1400 KVFD.
Listen to this.
Making radio great again.
It's 4:30. The news is next.
Is it time for a new roof, or did your roof take a beating from Mother Nature? If so, here's some great advice from Han Roofing. When you're trying to decide on a contractor, never tolerate high-pressure sales tactics. Never sign a contract without a price. Never make a payment until your job is done. And never accept a job that is not installed to manufacturer specifications. No warranty, no deal. Make the right choice. Call Han Roofing today at 515-573-7440. That's 515-573-7440. Han Roofing, an Owens Corning Platinum contractor.
Your news, your town, your station. KVFD News when it breaks.
From the Jerry Sheeter Newsroom, I'm Rob Jones. The victim of the deadly weekend apartment fire here in Fort Dodge has been identified. 67-year-old Gene Miller was pronounced dead at the scene after being found unresponsive in the apartment. Fort Dodge Fire Rescue was dispatched to 629 Central Avenue shortly after 2 p.m. Sunday afternoon when another resident reported smoke in the building. According to fire department personnel, the smoke alarm in Miller's apartment did go off. An autopsy is planned on Miller to determine the official cause of her death. The cause of the fire still remains under investigation. A fire was reported Monday afternoon at the Humboldt Yacht Club. The fire was reported around noon Monday, and according to reports, smoke from the fire could be seen on Highway 169. As of the time of this report, fire crews from both Humboldt and Webster counties were on the scene. No further information was available as of the time of this report. We plan to have more on this story as new details emerge. A two-vehicle collision near Stanhope over the weekend resulted in a fatality. 41-year-old Danielle McFarland of Stratford passed away from the accident that occurred early Saturday morning. The accident report indicates that McFarland was driving on 330th Street and did not stop at the intersection of Highway 17. Her vehicle then collided with a transfer truck that was being driven by 46-year-old Ogden resident Scott McLeod. He was unable to get the truck stopped before the two vehicles collided. McLeod was transported to the hospital to be treated for his injuries. McFarland was pronounced dead at the scene of the accident. The Greene County Sheriff's Office had a hectic weekend as they responded to various calls stemming from a party near Jefferson. The party was a two-day event called the Iowa Chill Summer Bash. On Saturday night, as many as 8 deputies from the Greene County Sheriff's Office were on the grounds of the event. Reportedly, there were 11 people who were drugged at the event, primarily from taking Molly, a form of the drug ecstasy. There were also 3 alleged sexual assaults at the event as well. Police seized numerous drug-related items and assisted first responders with 2 individuals who were unresponsive. The event did not serve alcohol but did allow people to bring their own, and multiple people were arrested for OWI, and various others were cited for underage drinking. The gathering reportedly had about 500 people in attendance. The property owner was not cited or arrested, but the Greene County Board of Supervisors is considering passing an ordinance that would in the future make it a criminal offense for someone to host a gathering that knowingly permitted underage drinking and drug usage. In sports, the 50th anniversary of the Iowa State softball tournament in Fort Dodge got underway today, and the Dodgers took care of business.
Popped up, that'll do it. Adams going to call her own number, make the catch, and that's your ball game. Dodgers win 7-0 in the quarterfinals. We'll see you on Wednesday for the semis.
A 7-0 win for the Dodgers. Jalen Adams, huge in the circle. A complete game shutout, allowing just 2 hits. Jalen would be big at the plate as well with a 2-run homer to put the Dodgers up 2-0 in the 3rd inning. Dodgers got 2 in the 3rd, 2 in the 4th, and 3 in the 5th for a total of 7. Chloe Wirtz with a 2-run single in the 4th. Haley Wills had a 2-run double in the 5th. Here's Coach Andy Adams with her post-game reaction.
The pressure of this first game is something that I don't think I could tell anybody to prepare for, because you just, you get rid of those jitters. The girls came in. Jalen was absolutely on fire. Defense was phenomenal. Our hitting was there. Just the whole package.
Dodgers will move on to take on Ankeny Centennial in the semifinals on Wednesday. They were a winner earlier today as well over Waukee. That game on Wednesday, a 12:30 first pitch, 12:20 pregame on Sunny 99.7 and online at yourfortdodge.com. That's your Alpha Media News Update from the Jerry Sheeter Newsroom. I'm Rob Jones.
This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. I'm Michael Devine. Thanks to Rob Jones for that newscast. He was in here a little bit earlier talking about the great Fort Dodge Senior High softball team we have, and we want to wish them every success. It's 84 degrees right now. It's sunny. We may get to 85 now. The National Weather Service upped its prediction on the day's high by 1 degree. So we look for a high of 85 now. Overnight clear with a low of 61. Great. That'll keep my air conditioning bill down. Tomorrow, sunny with a high of 88. Wednesday, a chance of some rain. Sunny with a high of 86. Thursday, it'll be sunny with a high of 83. Friday, mostly sunny with a high of 82. Saturday, sunny with a high of 82. And on Sunday, it'll be sunny with a high of 81. Right now, 84 degrees at AM 1400, KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. Obituaries this hour brought to you by the historic Bruce Funeral Home at 923 First Avenue South, Fort Dodge. You may contact the historic Bruce Funeral Home by calling 515-576-5117 or online at www.brucesfuneralhome.com. Mr. Howard Corey of Colville has passed away. Mr. Corey passed away July 25th at his home. Services for Howard Corey are pending. Donna Garton of Fort Dodge has died at the age of 85. She died last Saturday at the Villa Care Center here in town. There will be a memorial and visitation held at 1 o'clock in the afternoon Wednesday, and that'll be here in town. Donna Garton, 85 years old of Fort Dodge, has passed away. Obituaries this hour brought to you by the historic Bruce Funeral Home at 923 First Avenue South, Fort Dodge. You may contact the historic Bruce Funeral Home by calling 515-576-5117 or online at www.brucesfuneralhome.com. It's 4:37 at AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. 84 degrees. With a look at the closing market report, here's Dwayne Murley.
Here's a look at how the markets closed today. September corn down 1 1/4 at $3.25. December down 1/2 penny at $3.34 1/2. March corn down 1/2 cent at $3.45 1/2. May down 3/4 at $3.52 1/4. August soybeans up 1 3/4 at $9.06 1/2. September unchanged at $8.98 3/4. November up 1/2 penny at $8.99 3/4. January up 1/2 cent at $9.05 1/4. September wheat closed down 11 3/4 at $5.27 3/4. Soybean meal up $1.70 a ton at $2.92.50. August live cattle down 90 cents at $100.42. October's down $1.27 to close at $103.82. August feeder cattle down $2.70 at $139.35. September down $3.12 at $139.62. August lean hogs up 55 cents to close at $54.55. October up 60 at $50.75. I am Dwayne Murley.
I'm Connell McShane. This is the Fox Business Report.
Stocks kicking off the week in the green as investors brace for the busiest week of earnings season. Big tech names were among the gainers, and gold rallying to a record high as the U.S. dollar dropped to its weakest level in almost 2 years. With the Dow rising 115 points, the Nasdaq up 173, S&P 500 up 24. And Garmin, the GPS and wearable fitness gadgets company, said that it was the victim of a cyber attack last week, but assured customers that there's no indication that their data was compromised. And Dick's Sporting Goods is the latest retailer to announce that it will be closing its stores on Thanksgiving. Its distribution centers will also close for the holiday. Dick's is also extending its 15% pay premium through the end of the year. Dick's follows Target and Walmart in announcing stores will be breaking from the tradition of starting Black Friday sales in person on Thanksgiving Day. That's your Fox Business Report. I'm Hillary Barsky, invested in you.
We're the Retirement Income Store. We help hardworking Americans plan their retirement. Stop crossing your fingers and toes and hoping for growth in the stock market. You can invest for income without all the risk using interest and dividends. Start with our free Retirement Income Kit. Call 866-996-1173.
The Retirement Income Store, where retirees go for income.
Online at theretirementinComeStore.com.
Investment advisory services offered through Sound Income Strategies, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisory firm.
Michael Devine at AM 1400 KVFD.
Listen to this.
Making radio great again.
That's right. We're making radio great again with Dr. Dean Stanzel of Southern Methodist University and the O'Neill Center. Hi, Dean.
Hi, Michael.
Well, please explain the O'Neill Center.
Sure. The O'Neill Center for Global Markets and Freedom is in the Cox Business School at SMU in Dallas, and it was set up by William O'Neill, one of our alums, who's also the founder of Investors Business Daily newspaper. Our focus is studying the impacts of competitive market forces on freedom and prosperity in the global economy. O'NeillCenter.org, O-N-E-I-L.
Dr. Stanzel and I agree with him almost all the time. There are exceptions, and today is one of those times. He has, again, sent me a piece from Reason Magazine, which you can get in a hard copy or an online magazine. As a matter of fact, I subscribe because of Dr. Stanzel. But it is a very much libertarian-leaning magazine. And this one tells us, and you can find this on my Facebook page at AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge, and it's entitled Federalism, which is an important principle. And the real title of the article is Trump's Political Opportunism Has Shredded Federalism. Now, let me give you a little background here. What they're talking about is Trump sending federal agents to hotspots in all this craziness, in this insane environment that that is happening out primarily out west, but here in Chicago as well. I mean, in the Midwest area. Now, the left, of course, liberals have always hated federalism. I remember Hillary Clinton running for president, and she was always smirking about, we don't need this patchwork of laws with every state having its own rules. Let's just pass a law to make it all under one umbrella. And I thought, no! No, you don't get the country. Thank God you weren't elected president. But why do you think this article is right or wrong?
Sure. So you pointed out one of the great benefits of a federalist system is that you have essentially 50 laboratories of democracy where we can test out policies like the one you talked about that Clinton wanted and see if they work in that state, and if they do, then these states tend to copy each other. But you can also see things that fail, and so states know what to avoid. So there's a general tendency to favor keeping government as close to the people as possible, and keeping the politicians as close to the people. In other words, your local councilman, your mayor, they're a lot more easy for you to come in contact with and have influence over than your congressman miles away in D.C. And so the more things we can keep close to home, in my opinion, the better. And the Republican Party platform has tended to support that idea and decried intrusion on states' rights and that sort of thing. And what this article is essentially pointing out is, oh, shocker, politicians are hypocrites, right?
Yeah,
and
wow.
How, in this case, and both sides are guilty of this sort of thing, of course, but in this case, that the Republicans aren't doing a lot of complaining or objecting to the federal forces going into these localities where law enforcement is a local responsibility, and kind of overrunning and taking a totally different approach than the local folks wanted to take. And I think that's the sort of thing. Usually, if the shoe was on the other foot, there'd be a lot of complaining about it.
But of course, the local folks include Mayor Jenny Durkin of Seattle, who declared rioters taking over a whole section of her city to be a summer of love. And it's going to be your turn to disagree with me now, because I'll tell you.
All right.
As this article points out, Trump has always been opposed to illegal immigration. He's gone right down the wire to try to do something about this. The courts, for whatever reason, have stopped him. But corporate interests, management is very interested in slave labor that these poor people can provide, and they're easily to manipulate. As someone who has examined the state of workers in our country for a long time, this is a deep betrayal by the left of our country. Why is it in this particular piece that Reason Magazine has told us that Trump is wrong to do this?
Well, two things. I would object to the term slave labor in reference to voluntary agreements between workers and employers.
You may object, but those are not legal agreements, Dr. Stanzel. If one of the parties,
they're voluntary, though. Slavery is not voluntary.
If one of the parties is breaking a law, then you can't have a legal contract. Oh, I'm ready for you, Dean.
Sure. I mean, listen, but if the law is immoral, then we're duty bound to ignore it.
I'm sorry. I didn't realize I was talking to Dr. Martin Luther King. Where did that come from?
And I would go further than what you said, that Trump isn't only opposed to illegal immigration. His policies are opposed to immigration in general, in terms of putting up higher and higher restrictions on people immigrating to this country. So yeah, and I think you're right. This is an issue where kind of libertarians and Republicans, there's many of them, right? But where they are certainly in conflict, and there are some Republicans who disagree with Trump on this, but for the most part, especially in election year, they kind of fall in line, and you don't get a lot of opposition that you would normally.
Do you have a new girlfriend who's a liberal or something, or what's gotten into you?
I'm a classical liberal.
classical liberal.
Yes. Michael, the term liberal used to mean liberation from...
...of sending federal agents to Portland when you have an obviously weak mayor who is trembling in his home that's heavily guarded. He's so afraid of these protesters that he cannot act. If local officials cannot act, aren't we obligated, or isn't the federal government obligated to maintain law and order, especially when it comes to federal property?
Well, that is the one loophole that you mentioned there at the end. but hopefully, no, it's not the role of the federal government to engage in law enforcement activities in local communities. Certainly, there are federal laws, and they have some jurisdiction on that stuff. But there's way too many of them, as I think we talked about last week. But there's a federal courthouse there, sure enough, and they should be able to send in troops people,
right,
to protect the federal government's property. But they're going beyond that, from what I understand, and they're taking tactics that are excessive in terms of what's needed to defend the property that they're trying to protect. And so in that sense, they're making the problem worse, in my opinion, and of course threatening to do it in other cities. And It seems to me like kind of a political stunt to appeal to law and order conservatives, but it doesn't seem to be doing the good things that they seem to think it would.
Let me use another example here, and our guest is Dr. Dean Stansel, an economist of Southern Methodist University. The police chief in Seattle, Washington, is Carmen Best, and she's a black woman, for a little irony. But she sent a letter on Seattle Police Department stationery to business owners and residents, which essentially says, we are not allowed to protect you. The Seattle City Council has passed ordinances that prevent us from using crowd control methods that are standard procedure in other cities. And she really ends with, you're on your own. Doesn't that cry out for some sort of federal intervention?
No, I don't think so. I don't think we should knee-jerk go for having Uncle Sam swoop in. But I do think what you're pointing out is an example of the local elected officials putting in place a policy through the political process that presumably the people who elected them think is a good policy, even if you and I might think it's kind of stupid. But ultimately, that people have options, right? They've got an election coming up. They can vote those guys out. They can get in their car and move, right? They can vote with their feet. There's all sorts of responses that don't involve federal government spending yet more money and kind of turning it into a powder keg down there and setting it on fire.
Well, I don't know how an ordinary citizen in Seattle or Portland can be involved or get in the streets or any of that thing without being pummeled. I mean, law and order has broken down. I guess that's the basic argument. When there is no law and order at the state or city level, isn't it incumbent on the federal government to provide that service?
No, same answer. No, I don't think so. I disagree with you on that. I think this is a fundamental responsibility of primarily local governments. And look, again, back to the laboratories of democracy argument. Different cities are going to have different electorates with different opinions about how things should be done. And so there are people out there, no doubt, that think this policy you and I maybe disagree with is actually a good policy. And who are we to say, well, we're going to run your city for you? I think that's a dangerous road to go down.
Well, I would too if that's what were happening. But I most certainly wouldn't want the federal government running any city. But this is exclusively law enforcement. I mean, there are people, many of them in these cities, that masked people are showing up with backpacks filled with rocks and frozen water bottles, and they're pummeling the police with them. It's a remarkable show of ugliness and indecency, and no one seems to be able to stop them. No one, or in the case of Ted Wheeler, no one has the will. They're too cowardly. Uh-oh, I must have said something wrong. There's Dr. Stanzel's dog.
I figured it would happen eventually.
That's okay. I love dogs. Hey, that's okay. I love dogs.
Yeah. I think I lost my train of thought there.
That's all right. I was talking about the feds intervening in the narrow area of law enforcement when civility and local law enforcement is broken down.
Yeah, I have the same answer again. No, I don't agree with that. And I think it's misguided, actually. But no doubt, look, I agree with you in the sense that there's a lot of lawlessness going on out there. I just don't think this is the way to address it. I do think it's condemnable behavior, and these people should face legal repercussions. But I don't think what Trump's trying to do is helping.
Our guest is Dr. Dean Stansel at AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. Our third reason article is about the CARES package. The CARES package is essentially aid to unemployed people and to stimulate the economy, that sort of thing. Now, the second CARES package is supposedly coming, but they're still fighting about it in Washington, of course. And this is a package of that will cost us $1 trillion. Now, I would ask again, who in the hell has $1 trillion? Where is this money coming from? Is the government writing printing money, worthless money, or what's going on?
Well, it certainly seems that that's what most people think, given the support for the larger, over in the House, the Democratic House, they passed a $3 trillion plan. And so this $1 trillion plan, hey, we may end up somewhere in the middle, right, at $2 trillion. But this $1 trillion plan in the Senate that the Republicans are putting out is still too expensive. We were looking at a $1 trillion deficit coming into this year, and we've already done $4 trillion, I believe it is, of COVID-related spending. In addition to the $1 trillion, we were already over. And the short answer is no. There's not a printing press that we're just going to fire up. And if we did, there would be repercussions in terms of inflationary forces. So we don't want to do that. We need to be a little more reasonable here. And this is a work in progress. These guys are, as you said, arguing about it this week, and maybe they'll get something done a little later this week. But they are addressing, on the Senate side at least, the $600 per week unemployment, federal unemployment bonus. The unemployment compensation program is a state-run program, but the Fed threw $600 per week on top, and apparently that expires end of July, and they're going to expand it to they're going to continue it, but cut it to maybe around $200 per week instead of $600.
And
that's on top of what the state's already giving you. It's not. The states can raise theirs anytime they want, as long as they have the money to pay for it.
A lot of these people on unemployment with this extra incentives are making more than I am, which kind of irritates me.
Right. Well, and more importantly, or equally importantly, at least, making more than they would if they went back to work.
Certainly.
And that was not the intent, I wouldn't think, at least, of the policymakers who put this in place. But ultimately, they were just quick and sloppy and didn't want to bother to have to reprogram the computers to tailor it for each individual worker in terms of what they had been earning.
There is
really the way to do it. But.
Dr. Stansel sent me so much great information here. We're not going to get to it all, which is unfortunate. But I do want to draw your attention, ladies and gentlemen, to an attendant piece of the Reason Magazine article that we just referred to, and that is that African American gun rights groups are flourishing in the country in this last year or so, which is great news for me and lousy news for the Democratic Party, because they don't want to lose African Americans. If they lose African Americans, that's all over with. But my favorite New York governor, my favorite governor, Andrew Cuomo, claims to have crushed the coronavirus curve. He loves saying that. And, he did crush the state's economy, though. He rarely mentions that.
Yeah.
What are we looking at in New York?
Exactly. Well, even on the COVID thing, I mean, they have anywhere from 5 to 9 times as many deaths as Texas has had, and they have a smaller population. Got 4 to 7 times more than Florida. There's different numbers out there. But on the economy, what this article in the Wall Street Journal pulls together is unemployment growth data since for the year ending in June. New York had the biggest decline. It fell by 15%. Northeastern states in general were up there in the teens, and so part of what's going on here is that they've been very restrictive and very slow in changing and adapting to change conditions, and so you've got a great percentage of job loss there compared to other places that have been more moderate and reasonable.
All right, Dr. Dean Stansel has been our guest. Thank you so much, Dean. You sure supplied me with plenty of information today, so I thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on.
You bet. This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge.
White or wheat, classic or old-fashioned, with or without sesame seeds. With so many choices, selecting the right bun for your super-duper top-secret recipe handcrafted home-grilled burger can seem overwhelming. But relax, the bakers at Village Hearth have made it easy. As long as you see the familiar Village Hearth logo on your package, your grilling cookout's bound to be a huge success. Unless, that is, your unwanted relatives show up, then there's no bun on earth that can save it. Village Hearth Buns, baking our best for you.
Looking for something fun to do? Come on out to the 4th Annual Teed Off Against Violence Kickoff Party, Friday, July 31st at the Fort Dodge Moose Lodge at 424 1st Avenue South. There will be live music by Tank Anthony starting at 7, a silent auction benefiting the Homicide Other Violent Crimes program from 5 to 10, raffles, and much more. So join us for a night of fun and friendship as we raise awareness and funds to help those affected by violence in our communities. The event is free and open to the public.
Yeah, this is AM 1400, KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. I want to thank my guests, certainly Deacon Joe Coleman, Pastor Austin Hill. Rob Jones gave us another great sports update on our terrific softball team here in Fort Dodge this year. And, of course, Dr. Dean Stanzel, who is a PhD in economics at Southern Methodist University in Dallas, Texas. And he is also a member of the O'Neill Center. Yeah, check out their website. Again, I want to thank you for listening. I certainly do appreciate it. And I hope today, at least, we made you think. I'm thinking, but I'm more confused than ever. Of course, I'm always confused. It's 5 o'clock in the afternoon. The news is next. This is KVFD in Fort Dodge, Iowa.
Hi, this is Leslie Segretti.
And I'm Tom Kreitler, and you can hear the Money Pit every Saturday afternoon from 4 to 6 on the voice of Fort Dodge, AM 1400 KVFD, Fort Dodge.
The race is on. I'm Lisa Lacera, Fox News. President Trump at a pharmaceutical plant in North Carolina with an update on the multi-company effort for a vaccine for COVID-19.
The Moderna vaccine has officially entered phase 3 already. And that's phase 3 clinical trials, the final stage before approval. There's never been anything like this in terms of speed, nothing even close. A second vaccine is likely to enter phase 3 in a matter of days.
The vaccine from Moderna, where 30,000 volunteers are getting shots, but it will be months before results come in. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell saying the Senate is putting the final touches on another coronavirus relief package, but he says
the American people don't just want relief, they want opportunity.
He says the package will include another stimulus payment, but will also include more money for a small business assistance program. Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer blasted the bill, calling it totally inadequate. Congressional colleagues paying final respects to John Lewis, the Georgia Democrat and civil rights icon, died last week after a battle with cancer.
John committed his life to advancing justice and understood that to build a better future, we had to acknowledge the past.
House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. Lewis began his crusade for racial equality in the late 1950s when he was just a teen and spoke at the 1963 March on Washington with Dr. Martin Luther King. His funeral will be held Thursday in Atlanta. President Trump saying he will not pay respects to the late congressman. When asked by reporters, he did not give a reason. Vice President Mike Pence will attend. The University of Notre Dame has withdrawn as the host for the first 2020 presidential debate scheduled for September 29th, citing concerns over the pandemic. The Commission on Congressional Debates says the first presidential debate will now be co-hosted in Cleveland, Ohio. America is listening to Fox News.
Ahoy! Ahoy! Yoo-hoo! Ahoy! 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 Ahoy there! Ahoy! 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 In the name of the great Neptune! Ahoy!
The tides can turn quick on the water. Progressive's boat insurance has you covered with basic plans starting at $100 a year. Quote today at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Annual premium for a basic liability policy not available in all states. Prices vary based on how you buy.
Hey, if you're looking to cut costs and free up some cash on a monthly basis, start today with Pure Talk USA. Now, the average family of 4 is saving over $800 a year on cell phone service by switching to Pure Talk USA. Now, every plan includes unlimited talk and text. And by the way, it just starts at $20. So switch to Pure Talk today. Just dial pound 250 keyword Pure Radio. Pure Talk USA. Simply smarter wireless. You'll have the option to receive a one-time auto-dial text from Pure Talk USA.
With your KVFD news update, I'm Rob Jones. The victim of the deadly weekend apartment fire here in Fort Dodge has been identified. 67-year-old Gene Miller was pronounced dead at the scene after being found unresponsive in the apartment. Fort Dodge Fire Rescue was dispatched to 629 Central Avenue shortly after 2 p.m. Sunday afternoon when another resident reported smoke in the building. According to fire department personnel, the smoke alarm in Miller's apartment did go off. An autopsy is planned on Miller to determine the official cause of her death. The cause of the fire still remains under investigation. A fire was reported Monday afternoon at the Humboldt Yacht Club. The fire was reported around noon Monday, and according to reports, smoke from the fire could be seen on Highway 169. As of the time of this report, fire crews from both Humboldt and Webster counties were on the scene. No further information was available as of the time of this report. We plan to have more on this story as new details emerge. In sports, the 50th anniversary of the Iowa State softball tournament in Fort Dodge got underway today, and the Dodgers took care of business.
Popped up, that'll do it. Adams going to call her own number, make the catch, and that's your ball game. Dodgers win 7-0 in the quarterfinals.
A 7-0 win for the Dodgers. Jalen Adams, a complete game shutout, allowing just 2 hits. Jalen would be big at the plate as well with a 2-run homer to put the Dodgers up 2-0 in the third inning. Dodgers got 2 in the third, 2 in the fourth, and 3 in the fifth for a total of 7. Chloe Wirtz with a 2-run single in the fourth. Haley Wills had a 2-run double in the fifth. Here's Coach Andy Adams with her post-game reaction.
The pressure of this first game is something that I don't think I could tell anybody to prepare for, because you get rid of those jitters. The girls came in. Jalen was absolutely on fire. Defense was phenomenal. Our hitting was there. Just the whole package.
Dodgers will move on to take on Ankeny Centennial in the semifinals on Wednesday. That game on Wednesday, a 12:30 first pitch, 12:20 pregame on Sunny 99.7 and online at yourfortdodge.com. For KVFD from the Jerry Sheeter Newsroom, I'm Rob Jones.
Here's the AM 1400 KVFD weatherology forecast. Clear skies and quiet tonight with a low of 61. Westerly winds around 5 miles an hour. Ample sunshine expected again tomorrow. High temperatures reach up to 88. Lows around 65 tomorrow night. Partly cloudy. Mid-80s Wednesday and Thursday with thunderstorms both days. From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm staff meteorologist.
Live from the headquarters of Ramsey Solutions, broadcasting from the Dollar Car Rental Studios, it's the Dave Ramsey Show, where debt is dumb, cash is king, and the paid-off home mortgage has taken the place of the BMW as the status symbol of choice. My co-host on the air today on the Dave Ramsey Show, Chris Hogan, Ramsey personality, #1 best-selling author, and we are here to take your calls. The phone number 888-825-5225. We'll talk about your life and your money. 888-825-5225. Gail is in Jacksonville, Florida. Hi, Gail. Your question for Chris and me.
My question is me and my husband are both on disability. I'm 56 and he's 58. We have all of our debts paid off, and we have an income of about $6,000, almost $6,000 a month. I want to know if I can invest. I didn't know if being on disability would prevent me from investing.
It does not prevent you from investing. It does prevent you from doing an IRA, which requires earned income, quote unquote. Do you have any income that comes in outside of disability income?
I have my pension, which is $1,500 a month, and I have $30,000 in the bank.
Okay. No, then you'd have to have income from doing something that wage earner income or self-employed income or something like that. So income off of investments or income off of disability does not allow you to do an IRA. However, there's not anything to keep you from investing. I mean, you can just put money in a mutual fund.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's what I want to know. I was going to contact an ELP, and I wanted to make sure that I was able to take that $20 grand. I'm going to keep $10 grand for an emergency fund and $20 grand and start my investments in mutual funds because we're debt free.
Yeah. So you are debt free right now?
Yeah, we own our home, our two cars, our boat.
Way to
We
go.
own everything.
Way to
Okay,
go.
that is fantastic. Now, as you look at this, remember, take a look at your smart dollar budget and understand 3 to 6 months of that. You want to keep that in an emergency fund, then you could look at investing the rest. So don't shortchange yourself right now, especially in these times, Dave, where having that emergency fund, people have woke up and they're hearing it different now.
Yeah.
It's gone from a suggestion to now people realize this is necessary in order to have some calm in your life.
Yeah, if you have a $6,000 a month income, I'm not sure $10,000 isn't enough, is
No.
what Chris is saying. You may want to up that a little bit. So look at your household expenses times 3 or 6, and that's probably going to run you, up to 15 anyway.
At minimum.
Yeah, and then get with one. Click SmartVestor at DaveRamsey.com. It'll drop down a little thing you fill out, and then it'll drop down a list of the SmartVestor pros in your area to sit down with, and they can help you get some investing going. And the only difference in IRA and mutual funds or Roth IRA and mutual funds is how the taxes off of the growth are treated. And so what you're going to want to look for, Gail, is what's called a low turnover mutual fund. And what that means is the stocks inside the mutual funds don't turn over. They don't sell them very often. It's a buy-hold strategy, and so there's hardly any taxes on it until you cash it out. Much like if you buy a share of stock for $50 and it goes up to $70, you don't pay taxes on that $20 increase until you sell it. Or if you buy a rental house for $100,000 and it goes up to $150,000, you don't pay taxes on that $50,000 until you sell it. And so it has the same effect mathematically as tax-deferred growth like a traditional IRA does in that regard. So you're looking for low turnover mutual funds.
Hey, Dave, you remember the fancy term for that? You remember in school they taught us it's called a realized gain.
Exactly.
Yeah, you
realized or recognized.
Yes, absolutely. Upon the sale of that item.
Yeah, you realize it when it goes up. You recognize it for tax purposes when you sell it. And so it's not recognized for taxes until it sells because it's just an increase in value. It's a capital gain is what it is. And an easy way to find a low turnover mutual fund is just the S&P 500 funds. Most of those index funds have very low turnover ratios. And I'll use some of those to stock money in sometimes just to park some money in if I'm saving up for a piece of real estate or something. And it can sit there, as long as it sits there more than 1 year, whatever it goes up is only taxed at capital gains rate, which is, of course, less than ordinary income rate. So if I park X number of dollars in one of those and it cranks out for a year and I make, good return on it, I don't pay as much taxes on that good return because it's a capital gain rather than ordinary income thing.
Well, and it's something you point out, too, that remember, when you invest, you're looking at doing that for 5 years or more. Anything else you're saving for. And so that 3-year window, it totally works.
Yeah, absolutely. So she's going to be great. You're going to be fine. You're just not going to get the tax-free growth that the Roth IRA has.
Right.
And it's not a pre-tax investment that you're doing. It's an after-tax investment that you're doing.
Why wouldn't the pension qualify? Because that's money.
Not earned income.
It's not earned.
Yeah,
Okay.
investment income doesn't qualify.
Right.
So if you're sitting there and you've got $500,000, you're making $50,000 off of that a year, that doesn't qualify. That's not earned income. It's investment income.
From the IRA standpoint.
From
but you could still open up growth stock mutual funds on your own.
Always open up investments.
Right.
There's nothing that ever prohibits you from opening up an investment. You have to have earned income, which is wage earner income or self-employed income. It's very simply one of those two things. So you're either getting a W-2 or you're out there, moving some money around. Now, here's the thing. If somebody in Gail's situation, without messing up her disability and depending on the limitations by the physical disability, if she could go earn just a little bit, like $6,000 a year, this little side job of some kind without messing up something, report that on her taxes, obviously, and then that is earned income, and that's enough to fund your Roth IRA.
And that could look like babysitting.
Yeah.
I mean, waitressing, bookkeeping. I mean, there's a lot of options out there.
It wouldn't require a lot to earn the $6,000 a year.
Not $6,000, no.
Be able to fund the Roth IRA. That's not a bad way to go at all. Well, we've gone through tough times. Chris talked about it. It went from a suggestion having an emergency fund to where now you understand it's like table stakes, man. If you just want to play, you got to be at the table. You got to get this done. And you might be struggling for different kind of table stakes. You might be trying to put food on the table. John Maxwell says, change is inevitable. Growth is optional. So when you have a moment like this, like COVID has done to a lot of people, where it smacked you around financially,
I got smacked around financially because of my own stupidity back in my 20s, then you have to have a never again moment. You have to say, never again am I going to be in debt. Never again am I going to have an emergency fund. Never again am I going to be living without a budget. And if you want to get rid of this being haunted by your finances stuff, we can help you. We just launched something new. It's huge. It's changed the trajectory of lives already. It's called Ramsey Plus. This is the all-access membership that gives you access to all of our best money products. There are 3 sections you learn in Ramsey Plus with all the 9 lessons from Financial Peace University and the proven plan. You budget with all the premium features on every dollar. You track your progress with the new Baby Steps app, and you can get a free trial to Ramsey Plus right now. So if you're looking around going, I don't ever want to be like this again. I never want to be in this situation again. Never again? Well, we can help you. Text free trial. Let's see here. To get your free trial, text TRIAL to 33789. That's TRIAL to 33789. This is the Dave Ramsey Show. In today's world, technology and innovation are crucial for any company's success, but the primary focus should always be on you and meeting your needs. That's why you get the best of both with Zander Insurance and their term life plans. Zander uses time-saving technology like over-the-phone applications, voice or electronic signature, text message updates, electronic policy delivery, and even plans with no medical exams to speed up the process of getting you the protection your family needs. One of the reasons I've endorsed Zander for 20 years is they never skimp on service. They are committed to serving you. Whether you want to do business online or need that personal touch, you pick your path. Go to Zander.com or call 800-356-4282. Zander will guide you through the whole thing, keep it simple, and find you the best rates. That's Zander.com or 800-356-4282.
School is around the corner. This is your chance to teach your kids about money so they never have to be at the mercy of a slow economy. We have some incredible best-selling children's products for you. The Adventure Pack is filled with storybooks and activities about how to save, spend, and give. If you've got teens, the Teen Entrepreneur Toolbox will teach them hard work and responsibility while they earn extra cash. Find these great deals at the online store at DaveRamsey.com or call our Ramsey Concierge team at 888-22-PEACE.
Most home security companies try and trap you with high prices, tricky contracts, and lousy customer support. Simply Safe, on the other hand, has everything you need to protect your home with none of the drawbacks of traditional home security. Professional monitoring keeps watch, ready to send professionals if there's an emergency. All this starts at $15 a month. Try it today at simplysafedirect.com. You get free shipping and a 60-day risk-free trial.
Radio Iowa, I'm OK Henderson. The Iowa Department of Agriculture is warning farmers not to open packages of seed they did not order. Reports indicate the packages are being sent unsolicited from China and other countries. Officials are asking farmers to wait for disposal instructions. GOP groups and President Trump's campaign have gone to court. They're asking a judge to dismiss the lawsuit challenging new limits on how county officials in Iowa correct problems on absentee ballot request forms. A survey conducted by State Auditor Rob Sands' office finds a majority of Iowa healthcare providers say having private companies manage care for Medicaid patients has had a negative impact.
This report is one attempt to take a look at access and quality, as well as some figures related to costs from a provider perspective.
State Medicaid program managers say they welcome feedback from providers and will continue to work on improvements. This is Radio Iowa.
It doesn't take a brain surgeon to know ticks suck. But what you might not know is that they don't just suck blood way out in the woods. Those creepy little bugs can be anywhere, all year long. And I do mean little. They can be smaller than the head of a pin. But big trouble comes in these small, gross packages. Even a tiny tick can make you super sick. So what's the most important tip to avoid getting bit? Well, duh, pay attention. Remember, ticks can be just about anywhere outdoors. Then, spray attention with an EPA-registered insect repellent. Wearing long socks and other protective clothing is a good idea too. When you come back inside, shower. And always remember, check for ticks everywhere. And if you do get a tick bite, don't panic. Tell an adult. And visit ticksuck.org to learn how to remove it properly. Ticks suck, but being outdoors shouldn't. Go to ticksuck.org for more information. Ticksuck.org.
Chris Hogan, Ramsey Personality, is my co-host today on the Dave Ramsey Show. Open phones at 888-825-5225. That's 888-825-5225. Our question of the day comes from Blinds.com. Find out for yourself why Blinds.com is the #1 online retailer of custom window coverings. You get free samples, free shipping, and with the new promos they run every month, you'll save even more. Always use the magic word, the promo code RAMSEY. Chris, our question.
All right. This question comes from Casey in Missouri. She says on DaveRamsey.com, our 16-year-old daughter has just got her first job. Should we have taxes withheld for her? She'll make less than the standard deduction, so she won't owe any taxes. The reason I ask is I want to contribute to a Roth IRA for her now that she's employed, and I believe she has to file taxes in order to do so. In order to file taxes, does she have to have taxes taken out? Oh! Well, in this day and age, Dave, with Social Security and Medicare, I'm going to say you want to file taxes.
Oh, definitely.
You want to make sure you have that withheld. You don't want that headache and that nightmare later.
Well, there shouldn't be. She's right, though. There won't be any taxes due.
Right.
There will be some payroll taxes and some other things to come out. So have the minimum withheld because you don't want to wait on a big refund to come back. But you do want to file a tax return.
Right.
In order to do the Roth, because that's what we were talking about with Gail in the last section, is that gives you the ability then to do the Roth IRA.
Mm-hmm.
And so if for you guys that are in baby step 7, you're working on changing your family tree, this is something I did with the Ramsey kids when they were in their teens. Every year they worked, and I filed a tax return on every penny, every possible penny up to the max on a Roth IRA that they would make. So up to $6,000, I made sure every bit of income, whether it was at a place where they were withholding or whether they're cutting grass or babysitting.
Okay.
Or working for us, selling books on the back table to seminar, which they did. And so I'd file a tax return on as much as I could justify morally and accurately. And then that gave me the ability, not with their money, but with my money, to fund them a Roth IRA. And so, I mean, if you start funding somebody's Roth IRA when they're 16, 15 years old, do that 4, 5, 6 years before they get into college, and even if they're working a job through college, do the same thing all the way through college, then that alone could make them a millionaire.
That's exactly right. I mean, because that kind of compound growth happening at such a young age is a great option. Now, Dave, do you have to be self-employed? You are a self-employed individual.
No, you don't have to. All you got to do is just have the money, which means you need to be baby step 7.
Right.
You don't need to be doing that kind of stuff and not having your house paid off. You don't be doing that kind of stuff and not having your own retirement underway.
And were you the custodian of the account?
Yes.
Okay.
You have to be until they're 21.
That's right.
You can't open a mutual fund in a minor's name.
And so as a parent, you retain control of this money. And so it's good just to be aware that you can jumpstart it. It can be in their name, but you are the custodian.
It has to be in their name because it's an IRA.
Right.
But they're the custodian because mutual fund companies will not open an account for somebody under 21. Austin is not on that line. Austin is on that line in Cincinnati. Hi, Austin. How are you?
Hey, Dave and Chris. How are you guys?
Great, man. How can we help?
Good. So I've been listening to you for about a year now, and I paid off about $20,000 so far. I'm actually currently working on my car, paying that off. And I ran into my first issue. I took it to the dealership, and they said they were able to temporarily fix the issue. I guess it's something to do with the computer. My question is, should I sell this car and take what equity's in it now, or do I ride it out and take the chance of the computer going out?
Was the dealership trying to sell you a new car?
I don't think so. It's only worth about $5,000. So
They weren't suggesting you upgrade with them.
no, they didn't say that. No.
Oh, okay. Well, that's
Austin, have you had an issue with this car before?
No, it's been good so far.
And you've had it how long?
It just hit 100,000 miles.
Okay.
But I forgot to mention this. I drive about 500 miles for work every week. So that's my concern, is that the miles are going to start really getting up there and more issues are going to come up.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what kind of car is this?
It's a Chrysler, 2015 Chrysler 200.
Okay. Well, here's the thing. What I would do is do a little bit of research. I don't know much about that particular car, and see if the computer programs, if problems with the computer are ongoing. And if you've got something that's going to blink out on you, and you want to sell it and buy a car of equal or lesser value in order to keep getting the job done, sure. If and of course the other thing you could do is get a mechanic that's not at a dealership to look at it, because sometimes a dealership, not all of them, but some of them have been known to say, "Oh, this thing's a bum car. You need to walk right out here, son, and I'll show you another one." I mean, yeah, they'll try to upgrade you. That's why I was asking about that. Doesn't sound like that's what happened here.
Put all your troubles behind you.
Yeah.
Just get a new. Here's the reality, too. I'm with you. I would sell this thing, get something reliable that you can put these miles on.
Less or more, not more money.
Right, and then budget and set aside that dollar amount. That was one of the things, that was a game changer for me, Dave, when I got plugged in on the envelope system, was starting to make a car payment to myself, saving up to be able to pay cash for a car. You sell the one you got, take your cash, and you go get something new to you.
And what's weird is when you start paying a car payment to yourself and you're looking at, I'm saving up to buy something, you put more in the account.
Yeah, you do.
You don't end up going $323.36. You go, I think I'll put $500 a month in there. You know, and you start chunking a little more in there because, you know, $500 a month for 10 months, that's $5,000. I can move up pretty much with that. That's a nice chunk up. But, yeah, your independent mechanics out there, there's tons of really, really good ones. And just have somebody else look at it, give you a second opinion. The most expensive place to work on a car is at the dealership from a repair standpoint. They make more money per square foot. If you read National Auto Dealers Association's literature, the per square foot at the dealership, in other words, their rent, the most money they make per square foot is the finance office. When they sell you something on paper and they sell that paper to the bank, they make more on that than they do the stinking car. And then the second area they make the most money on is in the shop.
Service department.
Service department.
Yeah.
And then all those acres and acres and acres of cars out there, they don't make that much money on. They sell them in order to get you on payments and get you in the shop. That's where the money comes from.
Get the hooks into you.
Follow the money. Yeah. I'm not mad at car dealers. A lot of my buddies are car dealers, and I'm not afraid of you to buy a brand new car once you got a net worth of $1 million. That's all fine. And I drive really nice vehicles, and I take them to a dealership. But that's a highly unusual situation. So most of the time, when I've been driving cars growing, you know, throughout my life, and I'm 60 years old, is I take them to a good independent mechanic, and those guys will give you a good rundown on what's going on. So get a second opinion, then decide, do a little research, then decide if you want to sell it. Don't go into debt to move up, and use this situation as rationalization to do that.
And especially, let me talk to, especially single moms out there. I think they get preyed on the most, talking about you want a safe vehicle for you and your children and this and that. And I'm telling you, don't fall for that. You know, be aware of that. Keep your hand on your purse. Find a good mechanic throughout your church or in your community that can look over your car and shoot you straight about what's wrong and the cost of repairs. Don't ever hesitate to get a second opinion.
What happens to all of us is when your car breaks down, two things activate. You get pissed off.
Yep.
And there's this sense of insecurity. I'm stuck. I can't get where, fear. I can't get where I need to go. So it's cold weather, or I'm out in the middle of no stinking where, and I'm vulnerable. And it doesn't matter who you are.
Yeah.
And you've got this hassle, this inconvenience. And those emotions cause people to do some of the dumbest things financially ever. They'll be stuck out there on a $5,000 car and then go finance a $20,000 car on impulse because they get so angry or so afraid over the hassle factor and the sense of vulnerability of the car breaking down. Fix the car. All cars break. There are no cars that don't break. Some of them break less because they're newer, better built. I get that. but all cars break. There are reliable. I can't drive a used car. Honey, after you've been driving it 6 months, what do you call that?
Used.
That's what you call it. This is the Dave Ramsey Show.